Uh, I'm I'm Steve Piersanti. I'm a senior editor at Barrett Kohler Publishers, and I had the great privilege of being the editor working with Heather Younger on The Art of Caring Leadership, and now again working with Heather on The Art of Active Listening. The Art of Caring Leadership has been a very successful book. It came out a little over a year ago, and it has sold in its first year, a little more than a year, it has sold about 11,000 copies, which is that's a milestone in book publishing. Most books, only a tiny percentage of books sell over 10,000 copies during their lifetime. And so to have sold 11,000 copies in its first year is a signal that it's very successful. And that's, for those of you who know Heather Younger, this is no surprise at all, because everything that Heather does that I've been able to observe is done very well, both with a lot of energy, with very systemic, very strong systems, procedures, processes, and just a lot of expertise. And that's all brought to bear on The Art of Active Listening. I think we're really fortunate as a publisher to be working with Heather. A few items to talk about in relation to our author day today. This is part of a full day that's devoted to launching Heather's new book. It includes editorial meetings, design and production meetings, sales and marketing meetings. And the highlight of the day is this presentation of Heather about her book. And as we'll try and leave the last 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A. And so if you have questions, post them in the chat. I will monitor the chat. And then when we get to the Q&A period, I'll select from the questions that are posted and ask them. Please mute your mics. And now when we get to the top of the hour, we'll finish right at the top of the hour. But those of you who wish to will be able to stay on after the top of the hour and chat with Heather with your mics, unmuting your mics for another 10 or 15 minutes if you wish to do so. We appreciate the many guests that are here, as well as Barrett Kohler staff members. And with that, I will now turn the time to Heather.
Thank you, Steve. Of course, it's a pleasure and an honor to be working with you. I always think of Steve as my grandfather. He is just a part of my family in my mind. So whenever he tells me good advice or gives me some feedback on something, I take it to heart because I look at him that way. So I appreciate you so much as well. And the entire team, it's been just an honor. That's just why I'm doing this next book with your team, because just the entire process, nothing clunky, everything's smooth. I was saying to Javon earlier, the two things that I love the most about Barrett Kohler, first is that I feel like the mission, the B Corporation mission and everything you have around really impacting the world aligns well with my own personal mission. And secondly, I have so much control as an author to be able to have my work show up that aligns with me too, that I just feel like there's just no reason but to continue the relationship. So just wanted to say that to you as well.
Thank you.
And then for everybody who's here, I'm just so thank you so much for being here, because you taking the time. Not everybody decided to do it. Some people signed up for to be on the team on the book launch team, but they couldn't be here. But you made it your time. You took the time out of your day to make sure you're here for me and for this book. And I think I'm hoping you're as excited as I am about launching this book and maybe the impact that we're going to have in the world with this book as well. So The Art of Active Listening, you see, this is the cover I chose. I did a vote like I do many things. I had everybody vote on multiple covers, and we did different iterations in the background. And in the end, I landed on this one, partly because it is closely aligned with this book right here. It does kind of, as Michael Crowley, my marketing lead, says, it gives a wink back to this one. And because it is a series, I wanted to be able to do that. So hopefully you can see that, connection. Also, the colors of the book, actually, you'll see through the presentation, I use some of those already in all of these actually in both of my websites, employeefanatics.com and heatheryounger.com. So it was a way for me to blend just the branding that I already show up as in the world and how the firm shows up as in this next book. And then we'll see what the future books have in store, but that's where we're at right now. So again, just thank you so much for being here. That's the first thing. And of course, thank you for Barrett Kohler for just being there to support me along the way. All right. So the backstory for this book, I'm trying to think through why this book, kind of why me, why this book. So some years ago, I was working at a company, and I went into the company leading customer experience and understanding there was going to be a merger of 5 companies coming together. I knew it was going to be complicated. And I also anticipated there could potentially be a layoff somewhere in my future. But I went into it wanting to really make an impact bigger with customers. I knew that there was a process I put in place. Well, the merger itself started to produce a culture that was really lacking collaboration. It was seething with mistrust and fear. And I started to feel that culture weigh down on me. And I went to the head of HR because people would come to me saying, what's happening? This person has my title. Am I being fired? No one knew what was happening. Nobody was communicating to the people who were driving the business forward. So I went to the head of HR and I said, listen, we have got to do something about our culture. We're lacking. Nobody's talking to anybody. No one's telling us anything. And no one's asking anybody anything. No one's asking the customers what they want. No one's asking the employees what they want. They're just moving forward with this merger the way they want to. So I went to her and I said, I feel like we need to do something. And she said, you're right. You should go do something about that. And I was like, what? I mean, I'm leading customer experience. Why am I the one to be doing something about this culture? But it made sense because I'd already acted kind of like a cultural ambassador up to that point, uplifting people, whether they reported to me or not. And so I did it. I took her up on this idea and I created an employee engagement council. And I brought people around the table from the different companies who I thought were receptive to really, listening to the other side and trying to think of ways to really break down the walls and the silos. And I was able to do that. And what I noticed in that kind of exchange and over those months of doing that is that the more that I created that sense of connectedness through the listening we did to each other around the table, the more we started to think more creatively about how we could actually make the merger a success, at least as it related to the human connections and all of the companies and the complexities that were in front of us at that point. So we did that. I started to see things change. We started to do team building activities and other things where we could find out who one another was, what our names were, what we did, our backgrounds. And so some of that stuff started to melt away, the negative anxiety. Unfortunately, the merger didn't go so well and there were layoffs and I was one of them that was laid off out of like 200 people. But I realized in that moment that I personally had needed to be the voice for those who didn't have a voice. That leadership team never asked the customers what they wanted when they were trying to roll out new digital products. That leadership team never asked the employees what they were feeling through the merger. They never asked them all that. So because I saw that and people came to me naturally, I just put myself in the role to be kind of that person who connects the voices of the people who want the business to be successful, who actually move it forward, the customers and employees. And I could be the voice back to the leadership team to do something about it. So that is kind of the backstory for this book, because I've been listening now to both customers and employees since about 2008. So, and basically testing the process for listening and making sure that they feel like they're more than a number, make them feel like they're invested in the process and they're part of something bigger. And so that's really the backstory right now. Okay, so why this book and why now? Well, I think part of it is after leading up to, I've been through a merger, I've been through 2 reorganizations. Each time I could see a lack of listening, a lack of back and forth, a lack of understanding, empathetic listening as it relates to mostly, and it started off at this point, team members. I realized, oh my gosh, internally, people aren't listening to employees and they're the ones who decide, they are the ones who impact the customer experience. They're the ones who make sure that they represent the brand well. And so I noticed during this pandemic, after George Floyd, all of these things that have been happening to all of us, our listening muscle really atrophied. And so we just didn't listen. And part of it was we were on the Zoom. We didn't really know how to do that. The distractions were way vast because now we have kids around, dogs around, and oh my goodness, right? So our heads are spinning. How do we actually actively listen to one another so that the other person on the other end feels heard, valued, and understood. So right here, right now is the only time to do it in my mind. There is no better time. And I'm hoping that this will be kind of a timeless work that will go into the future and be at work for any type of work environment, for any kind of sector. So it's not in one type of industry or anything like that. It's meant for everyone at work. I would say that's the other thing. I'm going to go into that a little bit more. I'll go into who the book is specifically for, because it is differentiated based upon the other two books that I have. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to go over the model. This is the change model. This is what I call the cycle of listening. And why do I introduce this cycle? Well, it has been proven, again, over the years with customers, with clients. I have case studies where it went well or it didn't go well. Some of those will be inserted in the book so you can see how I'll walk you through those processes. But what I often found is that most people think of active listening as for sure the second step in this model, maybe the first step in a kind of subtle way. But most people are really dropping the ball as it relates to step 2 or 3, 4, and 5. And so the first step in recognizing the unsaid is really doing that. It's recognizing what people are not telling us. It's looking at the subtle flows inside the culture. So if you're someone who leads a team, what's happening to their team? If it's someone in customer experience, even what's happening with your customer, what's happening with even the customer experience team. If you're someone in sales, it's paying attention to the subtle signs of what the people aren't safe enough, don't feel safe enough to talk to you about. They aren't telling you the full truth. So you have to be super socially aware to be paying attention to that, right? And to kind of get rid of the distractions to really notice that. The second step in that process is now it's when we do what most people think of as listening, the seeking to understand. It's leaning in to really understand another person's position, maybe seeing what it is they need from us in the moment, and then saying, okay, I'm going to be listening to you. I may, like what most people think of as for active listening is I may look at you just straight up in your eye. I might shake my head. I might repeat back what it is I heard you say. All great signs of listening if they're done from a genuine place. But that is not all that it takes to make people feel heard, valued, and understood. So you add these next 3 steps, decoding. Decoding really is another way of talking about reflecting, thinking about what it is you've learned by recognizing the unsaid, what you learned even more by leaning in and seeking to understand the other person's perspective, what's happening, what they need from you, and then taking the time to reflect. I don't know how many of you here know what it means to sometimes just be like knee-jerk reaction. Okay, I am absolutely guilty of this, but we get somebody tells us something and we go, I gotta go fix it. I gotta go fix it. And we start moving quickly. Decoding says, pause. You'll do better if you slow down, reflect on what it is you hear, process what it is you may or may not be able to do about it, see how it connects to your overarching goals. There's all kinds of factors that you're doing. You do it by yourself, you do it with your team, you do it with your managers. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but a lot of folks don't do that. They want to go seek to understand and boom, they go straight to the 4th step, which is to act, or they don't act at all. And the action really is the connection between the voices that you heard, the unsubtle signs you kind of saw, and then it's the voices, and then it's action. It's saying, I'm going to act upon what you hear. And when you see that connection between the two, it says to the people on the other end, oh boy, I have more power than I think, more power than I thought I had, because in the end, someone's actually acting upon what I say. So if you think about this idea of, let's go way back and think of the baby in the crib, and they're cooing and they're awing, and all of a sudden the parents come to the crib side. All of a sudden the baby's like, they're smiling, they're so excited because their parents are there. Let's take that another way though. You're making all these noises and the parents don't show up. What happens? You're throwing the rattle out the crib. You're doing all kinds of things to get the attention, because here's the thing, our voices are what make us us. So if people around us don't take our voices seriously by kind of following a real process like this, then in the end, we're kind of going, did they hear us? I may see something, but I'm not sure. But if we act very definitively, and then we do the next step, we close the loop with them by letting them know the actions we're going to take or that we did take on their behalf based upon their voices, based upon the seeking to understand. Now it's like, voila, I've been heard. I am valued. I am understood. So that's what this is. And so it's different. How is this really different when we think about how this book might be different than others? So I would say, this is a workplace culture book. This is a communication book, because you can't communicate unless you listen. I would say there are a lot of things this thing is, but I would say the biggest difference, there's 2. One is I take this concept, the idea that we think of as active listening, and I really lay out how you can do it better. So I'm just showing you how to be better at active listening. And that's the biggest thing. Number two is, aside from being better and showing you the step-by-step process with stories and practical tips to get there, it's also this idea of this book is not about seeing what you can get out of people. So the listening, the whole intent of my book is to what you give to other people. You make them feel valued and heard and understood. You give them the gift of your presence. You're not there to get something from them. Now, having said that, it is still a business book. So we know we have to get things at work. We have to gather what they're saying. We have to know what they need. But in the end, it's not, I'm going to make a sale. I'm going to say this exact things. I want to make this thing happen. That's not really the intent. You're going to get that thing if your focus is making them feel heard, valued, and understood. That is probably the biggest difference in the book. Who's the book for? Well, so if you followed any of my writing or any of my things over time, you know I mostly am speaking to leaders about what they can do for their teams, what they can do specifically for their employees and how they can make them feel cared for and all the things, right? All I'm doing now is I'm taking the chapter in the book in The Art of Caring Leadership, where it talks about creating a culture of listening, and I'm drilling down to show people exactly how to do that through the cycle of listening to get to more fully the idea of really actively listening well. So the book is going to be for now any employee at work. So an employee at work, anybody at work, and how they use that to listen to both their colleagues, their manager, their team members, their customers, anybody at work. So this could be the executive to their board. This could be customer service to their customer. This could be sales to a prospect. This is the leader to the employee. It is specifically focused on workplace, because that's what I do. And it doesn't have leader in it or an employee in the title and subtitle, because I'm specifically and intentionally trying to be more inclusive. And who needs to do this? And this is why. Let me tell you why. So over this last, let's say, years, every time I'd go to talk and I would say like something about leadership or employee loyalty or caring leadership, I would see people's eyes kind of check out when they didn't have a manager title. And I got to the point where I was like, wait a second, caring leadership applies to everybody. And so does active listening. So why limit it just to those who lead other people from a title perspective? Because we all lead other people, let's be clear. But in this case, how do we then show up to help people feel heard, valued, and understood? So the book is for everybody at work. So that's kind of the exciting thing, because we all can use it and we can hand it to other people, and no one is excluded from the need to show up in this way. So my aspiration for the book, well, here's how I think everything I do. My aspiration will always be to make sure that if just one person on the planet changes their behavior and makes another person feel more uplifted, more valued, and understood in the process, I will feel successful in the book. Now, my goal, obviously, in a big way, would be globally to have this book in the hands of everybody at work, and that people's behaviors are changing far and wide. Are we going to do it perfect? Absolutely not. But the goal is to have more impact and to have more people listening to other people, leaning in and really trying to figure out what it is they can do to make sure that they're heard in that process. Okay, so what can teams do to continue learning? What I've done is I've inserted something at the end of like kind of couples with the book. So as the book launches, we haven't figured out timing on this, but I will want to make sure that we have an active listening workshop. I've actually already created the active listening workshop. It'll have a facilitator's guide. It'll have slides. It'll have the whole thing. And so we will have those workshops available for teams to be able to take the book and the insights and the questions we ask there, maybe even use our book club and do the workshop and just be able to really continue the learning, practice the concepts and the practical tips and steps in each of them to see how it works within their team. So that is what will be how it's like another tool. If you remember with the previous book, I had the Art of Caring Leadership Assessment, and I had the Online Academy, which I still have, and I'll have more tools there too. But this is just one unique thing. I just think it's really practical. I've already tested it on some clients. They absolutely love it. The idea of doing the workshop to follow something like this, I think would be super powerful. So that's why I'm deciding to add this other team element to it post book launch. Okay. So I went through that kind of quickly. And so then that's what I have, but I would love to open it up to questions. I don't know if there are any in the chat, put it in there. Steve, I'll let you kind of facilitate any of that too.
Okay, well, so there aren't questions in the chat yet, but we don't have such a large group that people can't just break in and ask their questions if they want.
Awesome.
But I'm going to start out by asking a question. You went through pretty quickly the 14, I think it's 14 years of work that you've done in this realm. Could you lay that out a little bit more of that this is, you've been working in this space and have for a considerable amount of time, and tell us more of what's built up, the build up for this book.
So this listening stuff I do really goes back to my childhood, to be honest. And I felt like, for those who don't know my story, a little backstory, my mom is white and Jewish. My dad is Black and Christian. And there was a lot of, I was excluded. I was pretty much the literal black sheep in my family. And I felt often that my voice wasn't that important. I felt like people didn't ask my opinion. I couldn't go to weddings, bar mitzvahs, and funerals and things like that. And so because I felt that early on, whenever I'd be in a workplace or be with a customer who I could sense didn't feel heard, or like no one was paying attention to what their needs were, I already would have that as my North Star to say, oh, wait, no, I need to make sure I'm different. I want to make sure I help you do that. So I went to law school and stopped, didn't practice after a couple of years. And I kind of took a journey of doing large account management for large organizations, dealing with kind of $1 million clients. And I got to a place where I was working at this blood center starting in 2008. And I was then leading client development. And part of that role was to survey clients, to do quarterly reviews with clients, to do, just to listen to them, figure out what they needed and continue to bring that so that they felt like the organization was bringing them value. So that was my first inroads into listening, because then I had to start doing surveys and looking at the comments and going back to meet with clients and doing the partnership reviews. And I would it'd be just like this. I like to think of it as like a volley match. It's just back and forth and back and forth. I listened to them. I saw it, I leaned in and listened to them. I went back and reflected with the leadership team. I'd come back to them with what we found. We'd say what we're going to act on. We'd come back, and it would just be just like this, just back and forth. That's why I call the process continuous. As you'll see, let's see. As you go back here and you see just the flow of it, it's in kind of that circular pattern purposely, because the cycle of listening, no matter who we're talking to, really doesn't end. It goes in that pattern, no matter if it's organizational or not. So I'm in this organization. I'm doing this for about 4 years, and I leave to that organization where that merger took place, and that's when I was in customer experience, still listening, doing all of the employee loyalty surveys and all of those types of things, meeting with clients to find out what they needed, what they want our software to look like, all the things, hearing all their feedback, and of course the entire time leading teams. So the management side of things has been in kind of with me for about 20 something years. And then I get to that point that one, it really was a catalyst for me, where I looked around and nobody was listening to anybody, and they just kept forging forward on the merger exactly how they wanted. And it just started to go downhill and downhill and downhill, and just took it upon myself to say, somebody has got to help be that voice for those who don't normally have a voice. And I had already been doing that on the customer front, but now I had made a choice to transition more to the employee side. And at some point, interesting enough, Steve, my company name was Customer Fanatics. I don't know if you remember that. That's what it was when we first started. I changed it a couple of years ago to Employee Fanatics, because of course, a lot of my work was on the internal side with leaders and employees. And it's just so funny how now I'm kind of coming full circle, where this art of active listening now will be, obviously it's still employee focused, but it also does impact how employees are talking to customers, not just how colleagues are talking to colleagues or leader to colleagues. So hopefully that helped.
Good. Can you tell us about some of your clients? Who are some of your clients, and what is the work you do for them?
I have clients that are like large banks, those that I've done oil and gas, I've done the beauty industry, I've done companies like Xerox and DuPont and things like that. So there's all kinds of companies that I've worked with in different industries. I always say the work I do really is not industry specific. I would have to say that healthcare tends to really love the messaging I put out there. Obviously around caring leadership, I think the same will be around active listening. So basically financial services and healthcare have been the bigger ones I can see kind of boiling up. But in the end, it's been It's been great. It's been folks that are, nonprofit and then for-profit and then Fortune 500, publicly traded and private. They're just all over. They're all seeing a need to have this.
Okay, good. Thank you. This is a question coming from Johanna on the Berrett-Kohler staff. And it relates to something that we're going to be talking more about in our editorial meeting. And that is, are there any differences between the active listening skills folks need when they interact mostly in person versus mostly remote? Do we need additional skills when collaborating at a distance? And of course, you talk about that now in a section at the end of each chapter, and we're talking about pulling that all together in a chapter specifically on applying this to remote, which I just giving away my position. I think we should do that. We haven't talked about it yet, but go ahead and jump into that question if you would.
Yeah, what I found, I mean, there are different skills, but I would say the thing, if we had some of them, we just remember I talked about the atrophied muscles. We already had some of that before. And when we were in person, we didn't have to exercise it, but it's this idea of fully being present and removing the multitasking, the need to multitask, the distractions, the idea of saying, I'm going to pull down my laptop lid if somebody is in my office. If it's just you in the office, I'm going to close out my email. I'm going to turn off my cell phone and put it upside down and put it far away from me. I'm going to close my door and put a note on the door that I'm not available right now because I'm on a phone call, right? I'm going to do all the things that says to you, I'm here for you. I'm going to look, obviously one of the things would be looking right here, like I am with you right now. I'm looking at you purposely because I want you to know I'm talking to you, right? So those are the kind of things you just have to, the things you already maybe did when you're in person, you just do a little bit more. You have to accentuate it some more. So like, for example, if you are, if it's your team and you have that meeting that's scheduled each time, you would do the things I just said, which is we're trying to remove the distractions and maybe have some, one of my friends that's on here now, Morag, she's on here. She does a lot of fun things. So trying to find ways to engage people on the screen, either it's through technology or just little games you do that really continue to do that so that people aren't getting bored and having to kind of turn their emails back on because it's not working well for them. But I would say the key is to lean into what you needed to try to get that muscle back that atrophied during this time, or maybe that you weren't using as much before because you may have already been at your desk and your laptop lid was not down and you were not fully present. So giving people the gift of your presence will be something that we really need to focus on, I think, no matter what, but especially in the virtual world.
Okay, so I'm going to do something that's a little bit unfair because I didn't prep you for this, but I'm kind of straight into my editorial process. That was good. I'd ask you to also answer that question about doing this virtually, more explicitly applying your model in answering the question.
Oh, okay. That's good. Yeah. Well, I think in the end, so if we are on the screen and I'm talking to someone, recognizing that instead is going to be maybe just seeing if they're paying attention. So I'm actually looking at their body language and I'm seeing if they're paying attention. If are they like this? Are they like this? Are they bending back? Are they looking around? I'll know if they're even paying attention to me. If I'm saying something to them and I see their eyeballs roll back, or I see, like, I'm just paying attention to the unsaid there. Then seeking to understand really is this, what I do often is if I'm talking to somebody on the screen, I'll go just like this. And I'm really leaning in. I'm leaning in. And if they're talking to me and I'm not talking and I'm listening, my goal is not to be doing this and checking emails. It is to be looking at them like this. So that would be the seeking to understand is really the lean in process. And then of course, asking that set of questions. So asking a lot of questions of them if I need to gather more clarification would be part of that seeking to understand. The decoding part would be, let's say someone tells you something, let's say it's a customer that tells you something on the other end, and you want to take that time. You just ask permission. You say, oh my gosh, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. I didn't know. Can I get back to you by the end of the day tomorrow? Can I get back to you within 3 days, a week, whatever that time frame is? Because I want to take the time to really process and understand what it is you've told me. I also want to go back to all the other departments that maybe this is impacted with and just see what we can do. And then I'll be back with you. Okay. And of course you follow up exactly when you tell them to follow up. And then you go about your time kind of doing the action that you're going to do after you've done that, or you go to them first, get permission on the action, go do the action, and then come back to them. And again, if it's on the screen, it's coming back and saying, oh my gosh, you gave me that feedback 2 weeks ago. You did all these things. I talked to all my other colleagues and we've decided we can do this, but we might have to do a little bit of tweaking. What do you think? Okay, so here's what we're going to probably do. And it'll probably be done by this day and this day. And then after I've done it, I kind of follow up in 2 weeks and say, again, back on the screen, I'm coming right back on the screen and just saying, listen, and going back through the process so they know that we went through a process for them. When you go through the process for them, this process, and you keep taking them back to, and I'm closing the loop with you. And I want you to know this is what we're doing based upon your feedback, or here's what we can't do based upon your feedback, because we can't always do it, but maybe we can do this instead. When you do that, it makes them have a level of internal importance. It says, gosh, they really are researching on my behalf. They're really going and digging deeply on my behalf. I feel kind of important. I feel valued to them. So that's how I would do that, even if I'm on a screen or not.
Okay, so good. Thank you. That did exactly what I was asking for, and be prepared to bring that all into the chapter that we're working on. That was good. That was good. I was doing a little bit of double duty there. Thank you. So Mike Crowley from the Bear Cooler staff has a follow-up question, and then after that, I'm going to get to Cynthia's question. But Mike's question is it okay to insist on or strongly recommend camera on versus camera off in virtual meetings? It seems to be a controversial issue.
Yeah, it is. Here's how I would pose it, but this is my style because I already lean in from that real caring place. I would ask them to do it because I really want to make sure that I'm seeing them, and seeing them would be with my eyes, that I take in so much more when I can see them. I feel like our connection is stronger. And so I would just come from that place. But requiring it is hard because there are people who still get a lot of anxiety on camera. So I would think we can strongly recommend, strongly request, but there are going to be those who just they feel awful on camera. They could hate their house. There's all kinds of things that are going on. But I would say the seeking to understand would require first that we recognize there might be something going on there. So if we are a colleague and we care enough, we would go a little deeper just to make sure. So offline, just ask, I noticed you're not really on the camera a lot. And I since we're in the office, I'm missing your face. I just curious, is there something happening or what's going on? And that's just one-on-one, because you don't want to do that in a group, right? Because that's too embarrassing. But I would personally do that, but that's just me. I want to ask, what's happening here? What's going on there? Yeah, that's that. I know there are people who require it, but I do know it causes a lot of stress in certain people. This is a new thing because I don't have any problem being on camera, as you can tell, but I do know there are people who do have that. And it's real anxiety too.
Yeah. So thank you. This is a question from Cynthia. All team members want to be relevant in their respective positions in an organization. As a leader, it can be a frustrator to have a conversation with a corporate person or owner who may hear what one has to say, but because their mindset is not aligned with the individual, nothing gets done. One doesn't feel valued or appreciated. Does the book speak to that?
Well, here's one thing that I've discovered through one thing that Bear Cooler does I absolutely love is they send the book out to independent reviewers, so people I don't know, and they give the reviews back. And that was some feedback that they want to see more of, which is give us more examples when it's messy. And that's what we intend to do. We're gonna make sure we address more of the times when there's complications in the relationships and how to really work through this process. Here's what I would say, because I know all of this, workplace can be super frustrating. When I'm talking about the change model, the change starts with you. So all you can control is you and how you take yourself through the process with the people you interact with. You can't really change the other person. You can demonstrate it by you doing it. You can respond in a more positive way, or you can tell them when something hurts and how you prefer them do another way. But in the end, we don't control them. So I would say that we, in each one of us in our shoes, need to focus on how well we are following the cycle and when we drop the ball. And then in the end, again, we'll obviously in the book, I will address, is there a way to do it? But knowing that philosophically, I don't believe we can change other people. We can influence them.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I'll ask a question here. It's pretty obvious to anyone who is with you for even 20, 30 minutes, as we've been, that you have a lot of energy. You famously said in the early, when we were first considering your first book, I'm not afraid of the hustle, and that has become within Bear Cooler kind of a moniker that we see that in you. But what I've discovered, and I think we've discovered, is that you also build a team around you, and it's not just a one-person show. That you create systems, you build a structure, and people to help. So, can you describe that a little bit of who's your team, and who's doing what on this book?
I don't want to. I'm not gonna. I can't. Let me see if I can get him up here on the screen, but I'm not sure if I can. Let's see. We have some of them on here right now. Well, number one, so we have Julie's here, and she's here on the helping on the speaking front, Julie Phillips. And so what happens, just so you know, I'm obviously a speaker and an author consultant, and the speaking helps drive a lot of the book sales. So I go with the management firm that manages my speaking business, CMI, and Julie is one of the representatives of that. She kind of helps to keep me on track and make sure customers get what they need from me in that regard. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of people in here. I have Jacob is on here now. He's part of a newer marketing team that we're gonna be working with. And I can't, it's hard for me to see who else is on here. Ashley might be here too. Another Ashley. I've discovered I'm working with 3 Ashleys. I have my internal Ashley, which love her, and I'm going to talk about her in a minute. There's Ashley, who was helping with the book cover. It's beautiful. And then there's Ashley now, that's part of another marketing firm I'm working with that will be helping on Employee Fanatic side and even some of the book launch stuff too. Then we have Nikki. Nikki, most people who work with me know I've been with her for a couple of years. She's been with me. We worked together for a couple of years. And Nikki has acted as the outsourced marketing director for my business for the last couple of years. And she helps a lot with getting another set of eyes. She's amazing at the copywriting and editing. So really being able to make sure that the copy is in my voice. So she and I work together. She puts her hand on it. I put my hand on it. And then what I do is I open it up to the other amazing people on my team. And that would be Ashley Rivera, Hathaway, Lauren. I think she's not on here yet. So I've got several people whose hands are in this. And this is a little bit different from the last book I had. It was Nikki and I mostly did the writing, and she did all the stuff with the emails. And this time it's a whole big team effort. So we get our hands in it, and then it's like, okay, 3 or 4 people, hop into the document, see if there's some gaps, see what is missing. So it's kind of in Heather style. I want to be inclusive. I want to make sure that there's feedback inserted, and I don't get hurt feelings. I want it to be the best thing possible because I want impact to happen globally. So that's how we do it. But yeah, it's a team thing, very much so.
Good, thank you. Yeah, that's and that's become evident to me, and I think for others. Barrett Kohler who work with you, and that's great that you're doing that. I believe that most of your clients, most of your work is in the United States, but we do have a Japanese edition of your book, and there might be another language or two, I'm not sure. But could you talk a little bit about any international work that you do, either clients or speaking or anything international?
We're going to be trying to do a little bit more of that, venturing out for speaking a little bit more internationally this year. I've done Brazil. That's Brazil, meaning I've actually traveled to Brazil. I did that in 2019. And then I've done some talks. I'll do one in a few weeks for a Mexican client. And so it'll be translated, and that's virtual. And then I've done French Canadian. So I've done ones that are, in global and the Dubai and all that, but it's been mostly virtual. The travel has only been just to the one country in Brazil. So we'll be trying to do a little bit more of that in these next couple of years, a little bit more global work. But it's interesting because I get people reaching out I had somebody reach out to my email, just say, I can't make it today. And, but I've read every single one of your books. I can't wait for this one. And I never even knew who this person was, but she'd been on my email for years now, since the first book. So I was pretty impressed. And then even I remember Dirk, you were talking about that one time on my podcast, and your daughter, I think she's in Switzerland, if I remember right. And she was saying how much she would remember the podcast, how much she loved it. And then I ended up interviewing him, and he's from Germany. And I remember you saying, oh my gosh, and I said, what? Like somebody in Switzerland is so it's so cool to see that different people in all parts of the world are really taking hold of the content, the concepts, and taking it to heart. So.
Yeah, and so kind of a follow-up question on that. Sarah Nelson on the Barrett Kohler marketing staff asked, have you found that body language of active listening differs internationally? And I'm going to add to that, just generally, how well do these concepts apply internationally?
Well, here's what I can say, because I haven't done a ton of research internationally on this. I can say that when I've used this with clients whether I'm doing keynotes or whatever it is, I always get rave reviews, whether they're in Dubai and they're in India, wherever they're at. They don't take kind of my own body language. So as I talk about that lean in concept or looking right at the camera concept, that in the end, I haven't had anybody say it hasn't worked, but have I gone researched it in other countries? I have not. I would say no matter what, the caring leadership stuff, I get people from all over the world that reach out to me on that, and it has culture of listening in there, and maybe not as tactically, and they seem to really, people are seeming to love it. So I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see how it goes over time. If we need to do multiple editions of this, I'm sure Barrett Kohler will help with that. If we need to update it as maybe there's something in there that is off. And I think with all the eyes we have on it between the BK staff and my team, and maybe some other outside reviewers, I'm hoping we'll cover most of the bases with this.
Okay, good. Thank you. The cycle of listening, which is at the heart of this book, and the book is really built around it with a chapter on each of the steps. How long have you been using this cycle of listening? And could you said in your presentation that you were creating, or maybe already have created some programs to go along with that, training programs to go along with that?
The cycle of listening it really has evolved. It's one of those things that is a perfect practice makes perfect on my end with other clients, whether on the customer front, externally to the organization I work for example, or internally. So it started early on on the customer experience side, and I would see the effectiveness. I would see how long the clients would stay with us. I'd hear their feedback directly to me and in surveys related to how it was me and my team, let's say, utilize that cycle, because I kind of put it in, proceduralized it in a way. This is what we're going to do. After we do this, we have our review with the client. After we come back from the client, we're going to do this. Then we're going to go back to the client. So we would just always kind of follow that. And then when I got to the internal side, I was doing customer experience in that merged environment. We used it there too, but then I kind of flipped it again afterward and started with employee side. I just discovered I was Net Promoter certified. We talked about this earlier, and Net Promoter really is a gauge of it was customer loyalty. How likely are they to recommend you, stay with you? I'm sure Trent, you know stuff about this because a hotel, a lot of people know about this. Then I discovered that when I switched over to the employee side, there's the eNet Promoter, and it's that same thing about employees. How do you gauge the loyalty of the employees? How likely they recommend you? There's all kinds of kind of indicators there. And I just started to see, wow, there's so many parallels. There's really nothing different here. There really isn't. They both are stakeholders that drive the business forward in different ways, but the process stayed the same. So I just continually worked that, and my teams knew to kind of work it that way too, with customers, and then of course with team members, and then just trained on it. So that, yes, you are right. I already created the active listening workshop, and I have personally been delivering it. When it comes to launch, there'll be other people extensive, maybe not me, but extended outside of my team that will either be certified or I'll trust them to actually deliver the workshops to make sure that we can get more and more people doing it. Because obviously I just one lady and I can't do it all by myself. So
okay, very good. So one final question and then we're out of time. David Marshall from the Barrett Kohler staff asks, I'm interested in how I can improve paying attention to the subtle signs about what people are not telling me when in conversation. Your step one, recognize unsaid. What tips can you share on how to do this and test what I think might be unsaid in a respectful way?
I think the biggest thing is that you have to, I always talk about going into it with a listening mindset. So kind of what I alluded to earlier, are you just around the people and want to go into interaction with people to get something or to give something? Because if you're going to give, you're going with a servant's heart. Now you're going into it from the right place. Now it's like, okay, now I want to uncover what's best for them. I want to uncover what they're struggling with. I want to uncover that. I'm not necessarily interested in getting something from them right now. So I think that's the first step, is you got to set your mind right. I think secondly, if you've already built trust with those people, and you build trust by by doing what you say you're going to do, and being there with them when things get tough, just all those things we do from a relationship standpoint. If you've already done that work, when you need to say, I think I'm picking up on something here. Is there something going on? You could address it. Say, I think I'm picking up. Is there something on one-on-one, of course, behind closed doors, but you've already developed the trust. It's harder to recognize it if you're not going with the great listening mindset. You're going with the get versus the give. And I think it's also harder to recognize it because they're not giving you as many signs if they don't trust you, and it's not safe for them to trust you. So I think you as a leader, it would be incumbent upon you to say, how do I create more of the safe spaces? How do I build more trust? How do I make them know I'm in there with them? I'm in the trenches with them. When I tell them I'm going to do something, I do that thing. I come back and I report. How do I actually utilize this this cycle to start with, because sometimes you may have to go to seek to understand in order to come back to recognizing the unsaid, because you have to set the groundwork for all of this. Hopefully that's
Okay.
helpful.
Yeah, that is. Thank you. So we just have 50 seconds left. So any final thing you'd like to say in the last 50 seconds?
I would say that with all of us right here on the screen, we have way more power than we think to make those in our presence feel heard, valued, and understood. And we can do it with this more improved way of active listening. We just have to be patient. We're not going to be perfect, but we can be patient and we can get this right.
Okay, thank you, Heather. It is such a privilege to work with you on this book. I think everyone can see all the reasons why it makes a lot of sense for Vericolor to publish it. So now we're ending the formal time, and those who want to stay on and chat with Heather can unmute themselves and do so, and we'll thank you.
Heather, hi, this is Jeevan. Just wanted to say, really nicely done.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for all your help too.
Sure.
Really
sure.
appreciate it.
So you have a little break now for about half an hour, and then David and Johanna will join you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, look, there's Nikki. Hi, Nikki. You're muted.
Hey, Rich.
That old chestnut. How are you, Jeevan? Nice to see you.
All right. Good to see you again.
You
Always
too.
good to see there's some the kind of folks that are the staples in my life, the supporters, Rich and Trent, and love that. And Morag, I'm glad you joined too. Hopefully there's some stuff, I'll come to yours too, to see if you can learn. She's in the process of launching her book too. So.
And Heather, you can't leave. You know this. You can't leave the room.
I know.
You're stuck with us.
I'll be here for some hours now.
Of
But great. I mean, this is awesome. Thank you, Giovanna. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
course.
Well done, Heather. That
Thank you,
was
Steve.
terrific.
Good
Thank you.
questions. Thank you for the questions. This is
All right,
awesome.
thank you. All right, bye.
Yay. Yes.
Congratulations, Heather. Great launch again. So
Thank
I'm really
you.
excited for you.
Thank you. Always glad to see your face here. And yeah, it's kind of cool. I know we had what I would say is that for everybody's here now, we had maybe, I don't know, 70 something people that signed up originally for this book Insider Club. And so our goal obviously is to get it bigger, but I want to make sure it's people who are aligned with this as well. So not just anybody, but people who are aligned. So if you feel like there are other people who you think would be great for the team and they really want to get behind this active listing message, just tell them to join. It's, not that hard to do, but I'm definitely love all of your support, and we're still, this is where we're, like I said, knee deep. all of us, Nikki and Ashley and Hathaway and I, we're going to be pretty busy this next few weeks of just digging in and trying to, try to make it as polished and meeting the needs. It's interesting. One person said, one of the reviewers, again, she was like, I really want to know, how do I do it this way and that way? And it was all of the stuff that it's like the complexities inside the workplace. There's all this complex stuff and you never really think to answer or to solve for those. And so I'm glad that they gave me the heads up, because I want to make sure we can try to help them solve for some of those complexities in this space.
Heather, I got to go to lunch. Love your energy as always. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Thank you.
All right.
Hugs.
I appreciated hearing everything as well, Heather. Fantastic second book coming up, her third book actually. For you. So good luck, y'all.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Team.
Goodbye then. Yeah. Thank you. See you soon.
Yes. Yeah. Great to see you. Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
Yes. The great stuff. Really good stuff. All the good questions. A lot to think about, right? Nikki? A lot to think about. Yeah. It's like as we're thinking through it, I'm like, and I have, just so you know, I had a editorial earlier, and then we recorded it. So I should be getting that. That was on my computer. So I should get that soon. And then I have another one with Steve, because of course we didn't finish it. He was really trying to focus on the introduction and because the introduction is the most important. And then because from there, we can kind of continue the messages on throughout. So that's where he was at. Is just he wasn't quite done with the introduction. So he was giving us quite a bit of feedback.
Even the recording from this call would be useful, because some of the questions that he was posing to, I think we can weave some of that language through the book as well.
Yes. And also, Ashley, because we'll have this, I will have the recording, because they asked me to record it to my computer. Then we can take this and upload the portion that we want, whatever, onto YouTube too. because that's helpful. Because people have watched the other one. I noticed that there are folks that have gone back to that here and there, so it's helpful.
Yeah.
So you feel like we covered all the bases? I mean, it was mostly off top of the cuff on most of it. I thought through some last night, but
I thought that was great. So we have a marketing meeting at 4:45 Eastern in about
40 minutes, yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So we can hop off. And our Hathaway, I don't know if you're going to be able to make that because I'll record it too. So it was sales and
Yeah,
marketing.
I don't know that I can, if the call is actually 2 hours, I'm not going to be able to stay the length of the call,
Yeah.
but I should be able to be on the top. I got, I don't know about anyone else. I was assuming everything was on Mountain Time, and then I was like, shoot, I think it was actually set on Pacific Time. And
Yeah, I know.
if you ever
I
want to stump me, get the time zone going, and
I
I'll-
know. I was like, why did I do that? And we said Pacific, and I know because I usually would say like Central or something, and then I realized that. So hopefully other people didn't get us stumped on that, and we didn't have.
No, you were
That's
good
right.
in everything that was posted. It said Pacific Time. I was just thinking, like, because you're in Mountain, I did what you're not supposed to do, I assumed. And then I was like, wait a second, they're on the West Coast.
Any other things, comments, whatever from this session, even though we see each other a little bit? Anything that was interesting to you or kind of like, oh, I didn't think about
No,
that?
I love the questions. I loved how you answered those questions, and I think that those are great fodder for book content. And I thought you did an excellent job, and it was amazing. And the presentation looked great, Ashley. So
Oh,
nice job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
was really
Thank you,
good.
Ashley, for that. Yeah.
No,
it
I
was-
think there was some really helpful, when we talked about the recording, someone asking what if people don't want to be on camera. That is an interesting aspect to grasp. So sometimes just with bigger meetings, people aren't, because when there isn't that visual aspect, what
Yes.
are ways that you can combat that?
Yeah, that's a good one, Nikki, when we do that breakout section to say, that, because I didn't actually address that head on if the camera wasn't on. I was reading the question differently. So now that you say that, yeah. So if it's not on, how do you do it? And that is going to be a tough one. We're going to have to think about that one, Nikki, or Ashley, unless you do it.
I think also taking into consideration if the person is always off camera or if it's maybe just like in really big meetings or
Mhm.
sometimes. But if they do participate all the time, like I know we all participate like 95% of the time, but sometimes we'll turn the cameras off.
Mhm.
And I feel like the manager should just take that into consideration.
That's good. I'm glad we're still recording this.
Yeah,
So
because
does-
but I think it's valuable because some companies probably allow it. So if that is the
Mhm.
case, and if you are having, if you're engaging with someone to find out about, what are different ways where essentially you can heighten your listening because you don't have those visual cues.
I love the idea, Ashley, of if they're always on camera, but they're not like for a block of time, or they're always off camera. No matter what, I mean, I think the manager's got to get to the bottom of it and figure out what's going with the team member, but it could be a coworker doing the same thing. It could just be somebody concerned. Like you're usually on, you have them and you're okay. Like just because they're a
Yeah.
coworker,
And also at larger companies, you may have a meeting with one manager who doesn't care at all if you're on camera, and then somebody else might want the person to be on camera. So just
Yeah.
like taking the time to have that conversation where the employee might think that it's just completely okay to be on or not be on,
We just should probably provide some tactics on that. Like, here's some questions you can ask. Here's some, right? Like 1, 2, 3, I feel like the lady
Mhm.
said, the reviewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's really valuable because it could be totally benign, that they're just not on camera, or you are right. It could be, it could be an example or a sign of a bigger conversation that needs to be had.
Nikki, I know you were going to say something.
Yeah, I've forgotten.
I do that too.
Yeah, I was listening to what Hathaway and Ashley were saying. I think I know that this book isn't just for leaders, but maybe there's something around, it's the leader that sets the tone. So, what is okay, what's encouraged, and
Yes.
really bringing in that, really flexing that empathy muscle in terms of, because there are a lot of articles right now saying that people are feeling burned out, and a lot of it, there's people say, creating threads on Twitter that say, here's how to like get your energy back, and one of
Yeah.
those, you don't have to necessarily be on camera for every Zoom meeting.
Yes.
So there are some parameters that are set by people who do have the responsibility to lead others to just kind of, here's a guide, here's what we would recommend. And no, I can do some more research on that. But.
I do love it because I'm thinking even under that pull out where it's like recognizing and said, I'm just thinking like kind of in listening method, if it's a leader doing it, can they get the team together and ask them what they might want to, even if they're turning off the screen, what would be okay as a team for me to say, or for us to say to each other, just to kind of question or to say, oh, like, whatever. There could be like a team word or a key word or a phrase that we use that kind of gets to the bottom, or asks like why something's a certain way. You know, it's what is it, like norms. So what are our norms? What are we okay with as a team when it comes to camera on, camera off? If we go off, is there something we say as a team? You know what I mean? I think those so kind of establishing team norms around how we act in that would be another thing we could do.
Taking people, like going through the whole cycle of listening. All right, so, you know, maybe there's some meeting that we all have and we talk about how we feel about it. And then we go away and we put a plan of action. We come back, we communicate what we decided. Like you could literally just,
Yes.
like, this is a big thing. And a lot of people are talking about it. And I don't think there's like not an easy response. You can't just say, I don't think you can just say, we're going to have our cameras on all the time. Like we have more complex. And so I think this is a great example of how you take people through your change model.
It's also, when you talk about norms, I think there's a lot of companies, leaders, managers explaining why do you want the cameras on, if that is what you want, and talk about the fact, you know, facial expression, all of those things. It's not just because I said so, but more understanding there could potentially be a more engaging dialogue if, you know, it's more reminiscent of when we are around the boardroom table, or, you know, when we will be, any of those things. So I think it kind of goes back to, I mean, the basis for all of it is communicating.
And ground
you know, why
rules.
it's happening or not happening. So
I love it. I love it. I love if we can kind of give them direction on how to set ground rules and how to uncover, get to the truth. Maybe it's the team and it's also one-on-one with the manager. Because again, it's going to have, no matter what, you're right, a team, the leader is going to have to kind of determine what's okay and then of course the team has to go along with that or not. Because that's the thing about it. If we're going to be inclusive with the decision making, we need to make sure the team agrees with it too. I know there's things that the managers has to decide and that's the way it is. But in most cases, I think it's important to say, yeah, this is what I'm thinking, but what do you think? Okay, great. It looks like the majority of us are okay with this, but if you aren't, is there something we can do to make you okay being on at least during this time and this time, like, or in this scenario or in this scenario, and then you can be off the rest of the time, you know? But giving the people that are reading the book, like kind of I think that's what people are really, really needing right now. Just all, because every time we go in, I'm going to probably rely on you, Ashley and Hathaway, when we're going through, because Nikki and I absolutely tend to be just, I wouldn't say like philosophical. What's the word for it, Nikki? We're very aspirational and we just, in our writing, it's like that. It's very like, that's good. And it's like, okay, but how? So I kind of need you to keep
I think
how.
people want SOPs. Like this is something that we can literally roll out and say to HR, every manager has to have, like, these are standard operating practices for X, Y, and Z, because it's, we all know, okay, like how do you listen? You're quiet, you pay attention, as you said, like you nod your head. But other than that, it's people are like, I don't, there's probably a lot of people out there like, I don't know if I'm actively listening. Am I? We can all think of things. So I think you are right of taking the stories that people can relate to, those stickier, more complicated situations. And obviously people are involved. So it can't be like you do this and then this, and there's going to have to be some variance and nuance to it depending on the situation. But I think in some aspects of this, leaders and people are probably looking for more of a directive, of this is what I need to be doing, because I think how some people learn as well, they're going to almost need to have that in front of them till it's really ingrained as their standard, as their best practice.
And the beauty of it is that it's never, do this. It's like, listen so you can figure out what to do. Like, that's the beauty of it, right?
That is. Yeah, that should probably be that string of message that comes throughout anyway. It's like, we're going to give you these tips, but no matter what, listen, because what people want is kind of what you're saying, Hathaway, but in the end, that's kind of a cookie cutter approach. Yep. And the whole point of listening is to customize the action based upon what we actually heard, not some cookie cutter thing that we hear, So I agree with both of you. I think both of we need to do both. It's just helpful to go through this. I think it's helpful.
Well, and you even just said in one of your responses to things you could think it's a no-brainer, but putting it down of, close your laptop, put down your phone. What are those things that it's okay, that simple act may change the scope of the interaction right there, of like it's down. So I think there are different spots where we can put that in. And then also too, it seems more tangible. It doesn't seem like this lofty concept. It seems like, okay, we can put some best practices around this. This makes sense to me how I implement it, and also makes sense like even for me personally, of ways of like, shoot, not really active listening, you know what I mean? Like mostly when it comes to my husband, but you know what I mean? Like being aware of like, put down your phone, like face down your phone. But I think we're all guilty of that, but just that small thing of take whatever that distraction is away, even if you're not looking at it, what does it say to the person that walked into your office that you actually closed your laptop?
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you actually
Mm.
turned your chair, or, you know, whatever that is. And I think it, for us, because we do it and we learn from you and we hear it and we read it, you get some things of like, oh, that would be a thing to do. But I think some people may really want some of those, you know, actionable steps.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I had just now, I think just as you were saying that, Hathaway, is that, you know, if we're thinking about some more kind of like gritty, messy examples or examples that are like, gosh, yeah, I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. Because we were saying that sometimes it's like very obvious what we're saying people should do. Whereas people are probably like, you know, well, yeah, I could have figured that out. But we want to kind of like really get in there like with some maybe more complex issues. Maybe just throwing this out there as an idea, and I know you have a phenomenal network, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that could contribute, but as you go about the process of getting endorsements, maybe you can also say, hey, and if you happen to have a story of when you had to really flex your listening muscle and you know, it was kind of really didn't know the best course of action, like I'd love a contribution, and that could even be a boxed out section, or we could just weave it into the dialogue. But it might be interesting to get some examples from other people who you know, are pretty high profile, know their stuff, and yet have come against some sort of stickier situations that might be refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I
when
think
something
that
gets
even-
heated. I mean, we've all been
Yeah.
in, you know, where like someone gets angry and it gets heated, or someone gets emotional. I think there's a lot of people that like don't want to offend, and then it kind of becomes like, oh shoot, you know, what does come next? How do we, you know, how do we proceed? And you touch on of when someone's getting laid off, you're going into that as HR or whoever's doing it, really having not a great gauge of what their response is necessarily going to be. So those conversations where, no, you can't follow a play-by-play, but how are you, you know, how are you engaged in the conversation that you can use the tools to best guide the conversation for the best possible outcome, regardless. Do you know what I mean? Even if someone is emotional, someone's angry, kind of what do you do with those? Because those are those sticky work situations that sometimes you're prepared for, sometimes you're not, but you rely on, one, people not wanting to be angry and emotional at work, and then two, people being very afraid of how to approach it. You know, they don't want to offend, they don't want to do, you know, so I think those are, people will definitely have examples of those. I think those are some of the stories that are really going to resonate with people of like, those are, you know, it's sticky.
Go ahead, Ashley. I know you were going to say something, and I have a question for you after you tell me that.
All right. Oh, I was just going to quickly say, I think that even if we don't get some examples from people, I think it'll be really useful and easy to put in maybe like, even in the camera situation, how maybe you wouldn't really care if we don't have our cameras on for like author day, because it's in a big group and you don't really need like that one-on-one. But like maybe in our marketing meeting, it would be something that's required.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, good point. That's what exactly.
Yeah.
Setting the ground rule. Like I think
Yeah.
that should be something we put in that call out for sure, is the ground rules, you know, trying to get a buy-in into the ground rules would be helpful, I think. So, okay. I know Michael, looks like Michael's on here. I don't know, but we still have some time. So if you all want to go take a break, and Michael, when are we starting? When do we start?
You start 1:45, and Johanna and David are coming on, I think, at 1:30 to talk about the Barracle, I think, the responsibilities. But I wanted to point out that we all stay in the same room for this meeting. I originally sent an invitation for a different meeting because I was going to be on vacation today. So and I didn't think about that till somebody pointed it out, because originally we were going to do this, I think, on August 4th.
Yeah.
So since we're doing it today, everybody can stay in the same meeting. I just resent the invitation with the correct link. So hopefully, I think there's some people that are. I'll double check, because I think there's some people that weren't on the call. There was somebody from a video company, I think, that was included in the invitation.
Okay.
By you guys, I think it was. I don't think it was me.
Yeah, it probably was. Oh yeah. Oh, good point. But you put it into the entire thing. That would have been.
No, I need to send him the author day code to get into the meeting.
Yeah, that was Venture Creative, I think.
Yeah,
that's
but
what-
somebody just reminded me when I added somebody, a new person on our staff who hadn't been in before. And then somebody else pointed out, don't we usually use the same room? So I think we should use the same room. Just reset the email with the same room. So
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
make sure that the ones that I had on there that aren't here now, I'll make sure they are. So then everybody else will be back at 2:40. Yeah, you know what I mean. In a little bit.
Great.
Thank
see
you.
y'all soon.
Yep. See you soon. Starting to record now, so I don't forget, because otherwise I'll forget. And that's great. And it is that connection. And I do that now. Like I have a culture of listening keynote I give, and I started to give it, and I'm just waiting for it to really start to take off. And I think obviously the book coming out, the workshops coming out, it'll make me speak about it more. And I often will say that like this, I always try to do this to this, because then it says, oh, like here to here. And then what'll happen is I'll get them, even in the keynote, I'll have them pair off for a couple minutes, and talk. And one person will share a story. The other one can't talk, has to watch, has to pay attention. And the other one they kind of switch. And then I have them stand up and talk about what was it that they noticed that they weren't saying? What was it they noticed that changed when they listen? Like all these things, right? Just all the subtle things that they're noticing when someone's listening to them, or when they're listening to somebody, just the things they're noticing. And it's super interesting to see, because then it's like almost like light bulbs. It's like, oh, and then you have one person stand up and go, well, this person didn't want to talk because this person, in our team, there was me, I was okay with talking, but the other person didn't want to talk because I had to talk, she had to talk. And now that we've spoken, now we really understand each other more because I took time to listen to her and she took time to listen to me. And it's just all these little light bulbs all around the room. Are like, what? Wait a second. Is it that powerful?
Yeah, and I imagine it's really important to, when you're acting and closing the loop, to reference the language that was used when someone gave you the feedback, because you might have like whispered down the lane and it sounds like you're trying to fix something other than what it was that, or address something other than what the person was requesting. So that's a learning for me from your talk. So it's fantastic, really.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I 100% embrace the values and the policies and all the things that, and anything you require. If I don't, I'm sure Michael will call me on the carpet, and we'll be in good shape, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so in our next BK Author Day sessions that Johanna and I have with other authors who are not as skilled as you are in these areas and active listening, closing the loops, we're going to try to do the closing the loop at the end of the 15-minute session better with them. And if we're finding some good experience with it, we'll come back and let you know about it, Heather. That
Oh, yes,
you've been really
please.
helpful to us on that. And
Yes, it would be
you're
helpful for
doing
me
this piece of the
too.
work better.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd love it. Love it. Love it.
okay. Well,
Okay,
hand you
we'll
off
let
to
you go.
Michael.
Awesome. Thank you for all you do. Thank
Bye.
you. Marketing.
They did ask me. If you were,
Maria, hello there.
they asked me how you
Good
were
to
to work
see you.
with, and I said you were pretty good.
I appreciate that.
No, I said you were a dream. You're great. You're already way ahead. I was just listening to the podcast where you announced the book. That was like last week.
And thank you for listening to the podcast. I always wonder who the heck is out in the world, who's out there.
I drop in every now and then. No, it's good. It's always been a good podcast. And your social media is already turning toward the message, and you rent assembling your launch team. So you're way ahead of pretty much any author I work with, even experienced authors at this point.
Wow.
I've done a lot of that stuff.
Well,
so.
like I always say, it's the teamwork makes the dream work for sure. So it's just having lots of smart minds around me that helps with all of it. So.
It was almost exactly 2 years to the day that we had our last author day. I just looked it up. It was July 8th. So.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Did you hear that, Nikki? Oh, she looks frozen on the screen.
Oh, she does.
Can you hear us?
She does look frozen.
Yeah, she is. It'll probably end up going off and on. That's what happened earlier with Steve. So
yeah, it's a problem.
I know Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
You too.
And then I don't think I know Sarah. I apologize. Your face isn't familiar. Did I meet you or just an email?
No, I think we should do a round of introductions.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
You want to do that, Sarah?
Okay. All right, I'll start. I'm new to BK. This is starting my 4th week. I'm doing marketing management, team leading, and copywriting. So I'm here to this is my first author day, and your presentation was fantastic, and I love your energy, and you're such a fun person to listen to. So this has been good.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Glad to have you with us too. So.
And Purnima, do you want to introduce yourself?
I want to say ditto to what Sarah said. The only change I would make is I'm not the content person. I do digital marketing.
Oh, nice.
So actually, Sarah and I both a little new. I'm not as new as she is. I've been here about, I think, 2 months now. Yeah, just sort of getting a team together and stuff. And digital marketing is what I'm going to be doing now.
Very cool. Nice to know who's out there when we see things posted. So thank you.
Maria says, I think you may have a new title since the last time we spoke.
Well, my title is VP of Digital and Partner Sales, and Direct and Partner Sales. So I continue to supervise I'm sorry, is that me? All that, hold on a second, let me, yeah, it is me.
You might have 2 mics, so I hear you great, but.
Okay. No, I was hearing the email ding, ding, like someone is emailing me a lot right now. Anyway, what I was saying is, so I continue supervising the rights function, and Katrine will be joining us later. Okay. Yeah, and so in addition, I'm also getting involved in direct sales and digital marketing as well. So I'm, here to kind of audit this part as well. Yeah.
Very cool. Good to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for all your help, and still looking at ways we're going to keep looking at ways we can do the international stuff, right? Keep doing it.
Yeah, Katrine will join us later.
Yes. Okay.
And then Katie, you should. There's some people here that haven't met you. So. Oh, you're muted though. You're muted. Yeah.
I'm Katie Sheehan. I'm the Associate Director of Communications, which is basically PR here at BK, sometimes events, and I just help oversee and provide strategy for the PR for all of our books and authors.
Awesome. And then I want my team to introduce themselves too, just so you can kind of know who's what and what role they play. Hathaway, I want to start with you.
Sure. Hathaway Rabat. I don't know how long I've been with Heather for over a year now working. So I was around for her previous book, and I am in a role of business development. So helping her with all aspects. So it's been great, assisting with everything from the book, but also securing new clients and growing what our engagement looks like with existing clients.
Yep. Ashley Rivera.
Yes, Heather is currently working with 3 Ashleys, so it can be confusing. But I'm Ashley. I've also been with Heather for over a year now. I'm the content manager. I do a lot of the day-to-day stuff and really anything that has to do with content. So if you see something out there, it's me.
She's my content manager extraordinaire. So yeah, all creative things you see on Instagram and all that, that would be Ashley. Nikki.
Hello, I'm Nikki, and some of you I'm already familiar with, but I've been working with Heather since 2020, I think it's been, Heather. And my forte really is strategic positioning and messaging, communications, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're deep in the weeds going through the final draft of Heather's book. But yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you all.
And Nikki is she's just she's one of the people who really knows my voice very well. So when it comes to writing or doing anything, scripting or whatever, my voice, she does an amazing job at that. It's a precious thing for me. So thanks, Nikki. And then there's the other Ashley, which I'm not sure, are you actually on here, Ashley?
Oh, I'm here. You're so lucky to work with three of us.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Ashley Amundsen, and Heather just recently hired my agency Venture Creative to help with some digital marketing. We're going to do things like email marketing and blog writing and SEO and paid ads. So we're super excited to start working on all of that.
So we noticed with all of the stuff we had going on, we needed to expand the team. And so we added them as members of the team too, to say, particularly in the paid ad SEO space, but all this other stuff. There's just so much support, isn't there? Like Nikki's also supporting right now on creating a LinkedIn learning course on leading with positive power. So we're going to be launching that, shooting that the first week of August, and it'll come out in the fall. And I'm sure I'll be doing more courses after that. So continuing to work with Nikki on some of those things too.
Is Gabriella, is she with?
And Gabriella, are you there? Or if yeah, Gabriella is my daughter.
Oh,
yes. She's kind of shadowing today.
Oh, okay, cool.
And she wants to write a book. She's starting to write a book, so she just wants to kind of follow along.
Oh wow, okay. Actually, just apropos of nothing, I just want to say I support Steve's effort to have you do a separate chapter on virtual implications of the model. Just because, just from a marketing point of view, it'd be nice to be able to put on the cover with the new, with the chapter on. We probably would call it out, because that's going to be, I think, a lot of people, that's the first thing they're going to wonder about. Because like we've been 100%, we're going on our 3rd year of being 100% virtual, like so. And that's and the reason I asked that question is that's something that's kind of top of mind for me, is that I've been doing this for so long now. It's kind of weird. Like I've never I have a lot of coworkers I haven't seen in the flesh. Never met Sarah. I think they've seen Purnima once or twice. There was somebody who was on our team who worked with us over a year, and I saw her maybe twice. So it's like just that whole aspect of working digitally and how it, or virtually, and how it changes the way you interact with people, I think is a big topic that we're actually doing a whole book on the new office too, coming out. And that's, that's part of it. So I think it really would be, like, from a marketing point of view, it'd be good to be, if there was actually like if you call it out on the cover.
Well, it's such a big thing nowadays.
Yeah. And it's
remote.
such, and I feel we're still working it out. We're still trying to figure things out. Like we try to do things like we start our meetings with a little like personal question so people interact. And but it is, especially reading body language, things like that. It's so I think I just wanted to put my 2 cents in that from a marketing point of view, I think it'd be advantageous if it was not just like through the text, but if we could actually, something we could call out. I mean, we could call it out in the marketing descriptions too. But
Yeah,
I
what
just
we're
think
thinking
it's
is
gonna be
that,
top of mind.
well, so right now we have it at the end of each chapter, basically like for that section of that section of the thing. But then we had one reviewer's like, don't find it very useful. But I also think because we weren't really delivering like we should have, like me personally, I wasn't putting as many tactics in those different end of the chapter sections. At the same time, then we were like, well, maybe instead of putting it at the end of the chapter, we just do like at the end of the 5 things, we do kind of a call out. It may be multiple page, but I don't know if we want to call it, because the chapter, it may not be like fully developed. Like it wouldn't be a chapter that would be 50 pages. Might just be, we could potentially put scenarios in there. We could obviously do it based upon the model itself. And I could see it being, 10 pages. Like I don't see it being a full big old chapter, because we haven't put that work in yet. I mean, I feel like we'd do a lot more research, and I'm not sure we have quite the time for that, but we do have a lot of good tips and ideas that we could stick in kind of a call out. I don't know. What would we call that? what do they call it? Not a section. What did Ashley call it earlier?
Exercises or
It is like a call out. You know how in some books they'll have like in between each chapter, there's either like a story or there's and it's like a grayed out or kind of section that's in
Yeah.
between chapters. But instead at the end, it could be something that says now. So like we've said all of this, these are things that are very specific to the virtual hybrid environment. And we could have that in there, but I don't know. That's where we're at right now. We're just trying to figure out if it should be at the end as a call out. I don't think, Nikki, we could get like a full on chapter done around this. Maybe a half a chapter, a quarter chapter.
yeah, it might be. I just like it was the first thing I thought of, and we just pitched the book to Penguin Random House, and I don't think there were questions about it, but I made a point of saying, actually, the first time we pitched it, they did ask that question.
Okay.
Because I didn't have it in the pitch, and then so the second time I pitched it, I did say this is specifically going to address these issues.
Mm-hmm.
The issue in the book, because it's different from different industries too. I mean, some industries are not virtual at all and can't be, but the ones that can be, I think it may just continue this way for a while, and it is a challenge. So.
Well,
Ashley-
it might be beneficial. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, no,
I was
please.
just gonna say it might be beneficial to have it at the end. It was like a call out, like you were saying, because then people who are reading the book who maybe it doesn't apply to them, then they can just skip right over it because it's
Well,
they're not
yeah.
gonna feel like I read all this extra stuff that doesn't apply to me. Instead, they can just skip right over it.
But the
Mm.
people who do want to know are going to want to know right away. They're not going to want to flip to the back of the book and figure out, okay, because especially the first step, like reading body language and reading the
Mhm.
the signals. That's the thing that strikes me as really the challenging thing, because
Mhm.
there's all kinds of signals in a physical office that you might not pick up virtually, like who's hanging out with who, or when you talk, like who's reacting and how are they all this. I'm telling you things I already know, I'm sure, but I think it's better probably to have it, if I could just to say each chapter has that, because if I'm reading the book, I want to know right now my workforce is 100% virtual now. How do I do this? And if I don't want to have to flip to the back and then flip to that third
Oh,
and try to
so you
figure
like it
out.
at the end of the chapter? You just
I
make
think
sure.
Sarah made a good point, and I do like at the end of the chapter. I think that's so. Maybe you could push back Steve on that.
Okay.
I was going to second him at first, but the way I thought of how people would use the book,
Yeah.
and the fact that we have a different perspective, because publishing in general, I think, has gone much more virtual than other kinds of industries have, just because of the nature of the work. I mean, if you're an editor, you can edit from anywhere, right? But if you're waiting on customers, you can't do that. So I think the world we're in, we see it as maybe it's bigger than it is. It's good to be able to have each chapter apply to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was a long editorial sideline. We need to do that.
No, that's good because we are trying to figure out. One reviewer was like they liked that, the other but wanted more detail. The other one didn't like that, but it's probably because again we didn't differentiate enough. And even as we talked after the presentation, we realized there were some other practical, tactical 1, 2, 3, 4 steps we could put in there, or ways to think about things differently, frame it in their minds, talk about that with their stakeholders and stuff. So that's really good. The other thing I was thinking, Ashley Rivera, is I was thinking we could do, I don't know if we'd get any, but we could do a call of people, either an email or social, asking them to give us a scenario that's been challenging lately for them in the virtual listening space or something, and having them send us like scenarios that they just couldn't figure out how to, or it was hard for them. Because Nikki, we were talking about this. How can we think of some stories that are the messy stuff, the messy, not the easy, straightforward stuff. There'll be some things we can think of that we've experienced, but then having some more examples of it, we can include in there, and then we can run through how maybe you could do it or how you could think of it differently. I don't know. So we should think about that too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't think we necessarily need it from people in your social network, even situations that you can think of off the top of your head, or things that you think are happening commonly. Those are the things that I think that people want to know how to handle. So I don't think we necessarily need it from someone
social.
that we know, or I think that it can even be beneficial if it's like anonymous, just giving the situation like in theory.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely including those real life situations, I think will be helpful.
Michael, I would say if you want to just send over, like if there's stuff you can think of, like just say it,
Yeah.
this scenario, or anybody on the team, this scenario, because then at least we can address the ones that are kind of common to most. Like you said, not to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That would be probably super helpful.
Okay,
There's
great.
a platform that I used to utilize called Haro, Help a Reporter Out. I don't know if you've ever utilized it, but that might be useful to kind of get some like random anonymous, information in regard to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, we are going down that road, and it'll come together nicely, I'm sure, Michael. It'll be
No,
good.
yeah, I just wanted my 2 cents.
Thank you for
So
that. Thank you.
we usually, this is a little unusual in that we've talked to Heather so recently and we've worked so closely with her that a lot of times with authors, just for the new, that like for Sarah and some newer people, like we usually are starting from scratch, and here we're starting from somebody who's. I just realized the other day you passed 10,000 copies, which is a big milestone for us. I was looking at the sales figures, and with digital, you're almost past 10. I think you're past 10,000 in print, and with digital, it's well over. I think that's where the 11 comes from. So that's great. That is a huge accomplishment. Not that many authors get there. So
That's awesome.
people
Thank
outside the industry don't realize how hard it is, but they think everybody's Dean Koontz or something, but they're not.
you. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's selling millions of copies. It's like,
yeah,
no.
it's 10,000 is a lot of books in a year, in just over a year. So that's great. Congratulations on that.
Well,
Does everybody have the marketing plan?
Oh no,
I
you
probably
can,
need
you
to
want
send out
to
1 million copies.
could you I'd actually can you pull it up? I'm wondering, do you have the ability to do that actually?
Yeah, I do. Let's see. Give me a
Okay,
second.
I would say pull it up and let's walk through it that way. That's probably easier. And then I'll make sure I got it the other day, and I don't know who is sent to, so I'll send it out to the rest of the team for their own.
Okay, yeah, I
copy.
didn't realize there was that. I think I may have just sent it out to you and Nikki,
Okay.
or actually may not. I don't, because I think the person who sent it out probably wasn't told to do that. So hang on just 1 second.
Yeah,
Let me,
we'll make sure everybody gets it. And
yeah,
the other thing I was going to say, I have told Steve this, and my team knows this, but the goal for this book is Wall Street Journal list.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
Okay.
we obviously different strategies and different things we want to do. In Wall Street Journal list, I think Steve's saying 6,000 to 7,000 that first week, obviously trying to load up pre-orders, and not more than half of them can be bulk. And so I'm trying to learn all the rules now.
Is the book, is it hardcover?
No, does it have to be on Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I think it does.
I think
Oh,
it
does
does.
it? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I think it
Lear-
does.
learning something. new.
But you can do it via ebooks and Kindle sales.
Right.
Also.
That's
so
something.
that's the catch.
So that might be switchers, because I
we
think they
have-
do have a separate ebook list.
We've had one author who's gotten on the Wall Street Journal list, but it was with his ebook. And because it was kind of later after the campaign, and they did an ebook drop on one of the big ebook distributors like BookBub or something, they did a 99-cent sale, and it ended. But you don't want to do that right at the beginning of the launch. You don't want to cannibalize your sales. But they did it maybe 3 or 4 months later, and they did this massive price drop, and it sold about 6,000 or 7,000 ebook copies, and then it made the Wall Street Journal list.
Oh, I thought it had to be done in the first amount of days in order to get the list.
No, I think any
For the-
time, right?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, but this particular author, if you're talking about shift into a higher gear.
No, I
that-
was talking about the negotiation book, Deepak.
Deepak.
Yeah,
it
the
wasn't-
professor
yeah,
at Harvard. The Art of Negotiation, was it? I believe.
Oh God.
Oh, that wasn't
Deepak.
our book though.
No, it had an edgier title. I can't remember it now.
Well, I can look it up, but it was quite a while ago too.
Was it our title? Then it was Negotiating the Impossible.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, with Deepak? Yes.
But but I think that in these cases they use an agency to really kind of, do something to the metadata and to the categories and so anyway.
Mm.
Let me get my screen share.
Yeah, so I want to brainstorm on how we do it, since it is print and not, or since it's paperback and not hardcover. That kind of sucks for me.
Yeah.
on the
Well, and
goal, on the goal setting front. And
It's
I'm very
kind of a
bored.
bummer for everybody because hardcover books are taking about 2 years to be printed now.
Yes, I
Because of
know.
the whole supply chain issue. So who knows? Maybe Wall Street Journal will make an exception because of that. I don't know. We can find out.
Or you could do it from the get-go, I would think, if just with ebook sales, if you just emphasize that somehow. Like if you ask people to buy the ebook instead of the print book. I'm not sure I want them to do that, but
But you're right, though. If you said to do that and you didn't discount it, maybe it'd be okay. But if
Well, the
we
weird
did the
thing-
discount,
The weird thing about the Wall Street Journal ebook listing is I don't think they weigh the price of the book in there at all. Like you can discount it really deep.
That's right. That's how it made it because we did that
Yeah.
99-cent price drop and sold like 8,000 or 9,000 as far as I remember.
Well, I remember looking at that same list too, and there were some books that were
Yeah.
several years old, and it was like somebody
Yeah.
decided this was a strategy for a book that was like 5 years old. Sometimes I think at least one of them was older than that. It's
Oh,
just
that's
we
good to
drop the
know.
price to 99
Right.
cents. The author just pushes it out to their whole network and everybody buys and then you get on the list. But that's the thing about it is that we don't want a 99-cent sale right
Not
after.
right away, but
Yeah, 'cause
that
it
can
just
be a
really
No.
longer
closes the
term.
book.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that could be a longer term
Well,
strategy.
that's good to know. Very good
Yeah.
to know. I don't
So
get too
can
excited
we
about it.
share? Can we share the marketing plan?
There
Thank
it
you.
is. There it is. So we usually start by talking about audiences, and I know right off the bat we made a mistake with the audiences because I put leaders first, and I think we had a correspondence about this earlier. It's really for everybody.
At work.
Yeah. So I'm going to need to change that in some of the information that we have out there.
But that can still be leaders. It could be middle management. It could be line item leaders.
Yeah,
It could
exactly.
be
Like
support
add
staff.
yeah,
Right.
leaders,
Yeah.
managers,
You just
and
right.
line
Just
workers who want to skip for simple waiting.
right. You can
Well,
just
I have
add
to change this increase retention. I need to change this first bullet a little bit.
right.
Because I was thinking specifically I was thinking of auto carrying leadership, and I think the book was originally framed to me that way. So, so that I need to change. But I think everything else here is pretty much accurate. Are there any audiences we might want to add or go a little more detailed on? Like, are there any, I was thinking healthcare, just because I feel like the consequences of accurate healthcare or accurate communication in healthcare are weightier than they are in any other industry.
Healthcare does tend to be super attracted to even like the caring leadership stuff. I've noticed they booked me a lot for speaking and
Yeah,
workshops.
Also nonprofit. I would add nonprofit, and I would also add government audiences. It'll just help to inform. Usually we like to be super specific on the audiences because it will help inform the PR strategy. So if we're reaching out to nonprofits and we know that we're going to submit the book to Nonprofit World, Nonprofit Journal, all the publications that feed into the nonprofit world. Also with government, same thing, healthcare, any of those vertical markets. It's good to have those in your audiences because then when the PR people will look at that, then they'll start knowing, we start making our list based on who's going to read the book. I feel like this might even be like like the art, your first book, it was caring. And so I feel like it had a real strong appeal to women too, right? So we can go after women's publications and, that type of thing. But so it can be pretty broad.
It is broad because
Yeah.
and I was wanting to. One of the reasons too is I wanted to bring in basically sales people,
Right.
customer experience people, but partly because it does, by the way, also drive my speaking business and any other
Right.
consulting. Because now I'm doing workshops. I can be doing workshops now for sales teams, consulting
Exactly.
teams, right? So I wanted to make sure I could speak to them, and it does speak to it because that's how I used it to begin with. So-
Right. It's like your endorsements where you can really be focused on who your endorsers are.
Yeah.
You want them to be representative of all your audiences, people of color, men, women, academics, big business owners. And it's the same way with PR. If if you have a couple pieces in Nonprofit Journal, Nonprofit World, those are the things for speaking that are going to get you their attention.
That's good.
Right.
And are you all offering like you did last time, the 3 months of the like
Yes.
Fauzia or somebody? Oh, you are good.
Well, Smith, we have Smith on retainer now because they've been doing such a great work with us. And so they're working with all of our DEI authors and business authors. And so we have that, like I said, we can do a 3-month campaign. We can't transfer the money because now we have this big package deal with them at a deep discount.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we have scheduled for this book and this time around. Also because they were so successful for you, and I seem to remember you really enjoyed working with them. And
I did. It's just that they could only take me kind of to a certain point. So I'm looking at, we'd have to do a different strategy. When I spoke to Fauzia recently, we talked about doing in communities, kind of like you're talking about right now, Katie, where we market to like sales groups, you market to nonprofit groups, you market to projects. So so that the whole promotion is different than it was before. So they got me kind of to a certain level and then they just couldn't go any further. And so I was trying to see if we could get ones that could kind of elevate, because I already have Fast Company, tons of Forbes, like all of those.
Right. You have all the big business.
Trying to switch up a little bit so that they're not going to that same.
Although with Smith, you could focus, I can't remember, but if you did a ton of broadcasts, but you could focus more on broadcasts. I'm sure you did a ton of podcasts with them because they're really, really strong in that area.
Yep.
But so that was going to be our offer. I mean, and you could take Smith and then work with somebody afterwards on a different type of strategy that might go deeper into those verticals.
Yep.
Again, when we look at the launch time in that 3-month campaign, we're really trying to garner as much PR as possible in order to put it in that Penguin Random House database. So all that PR goes in as early as possible, and that helps the Penguin reps sell the book. So, you know, for you and Smith, you had probably 87 or 90 media hits in there. And so when the salespeople see that, they're like, ooh, okay, now I can go out to Amazon. Now I can go out to Barnes and Noble. Now I can get more books into the independent bookstores. So I always look at it more of a launch. When we do provide a 3-month campaign like this for authors, it's kind of more driven towards the launch, like just getting everything really ramped up for the first like month or two. And then, like I said, if you have a longer term, you know, a lot of authors do keep publicists on full retainer for like, you know, a whole year or whatever. But if at that point, you know, the 3-month quick, you know how Smith works, then if you felt like afterwards you could devise a different strategy with Fazia in terms of going into those deeper vertical markets. You know, looking into the nonprofit, looking into government, looking into sales and marketing, you know, that more very focused. I think that's a good strategy that could work too.
Okay.
Did you ever give Smith that feedback?
No, they didn't like offer a wrap up. They didn't do any of that kind of stuff. It was just kind of like we did this and then it's done. And I didn't say, oh, well, let's have a final call now to tell you whatever. I didn't do that.
Well, it might be interesting to see what they say. Like say like it was great. Because we are in this situation where we have a certain amount of books slotted in, they give us a rate for that. And so we take a book out, we got to put a different book in.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious how they reacted to that feedback. And if they, you know, it would just, I think.
Well, you just felt like.
In terms of like, you know.
The people were very nice. They were fine.
Yeah.
I think right towards the end, I want to say we may have had it was just a little rougher when we got towards the end of it. Like, okay, I think somebody on my team needed needed something from them. And it was kind of like they just dropped it. And, but I would say, overarchingly it was decent. It was just that because I already have a strong team and I've been doing this for a long time, I had so many contacts of my own. So I felt like I was doing a lot of hustling on the side myself because I had all these Forbes contacts. They did help me get in Fast Company. That was one that was very definitive. That was theirs for sure. I had lots of podcasts. I got into Inc. myself. So that's what I mean. It's just trying to get it where they really can get higher level access. The Fast Company one was good. I think I got 5 articles from that. So
and sometimes the what really makes a difference is a longer campaign. So if you were to hire your own publicist and do a 6-month campaign, starting, you know, 4 months before the publication date and running after, there's just more time there. Quick, you know, Smith, we like them because they can get up to speed quick. They can get lots of PR. We can get it and we can at least launch the book that way and give authors support in marketing that way too.
Nikki, did you have any feedback on that? Because you were obviously with me the whole time when we were working with Smith.
No, I was just trying to dig out the email chain. I thought they were fantastic and they got you tons of great stuff, which alongside your existing contacts, you know, you kind of working things on your end, they were working things on their end, and I feel like we got tons of really great stuff. And then I did get the sense, and I think it probably was because it had gone past the 3-month mark, and so we circled back. We were hoping that we could, from memory, find some new angles, maybe related to some topical business, you know, events in the news or current trends. And I think at that point they went away. When they came back, they said, you know, we kind of feel like we've done all we can right now. So it was a fair point. And maybe, and new book, new year, and more they can do this time around.
Well, and also you were only the second author that worked with Smith with us, and so since then they've worked with probably 12 or 14 of our authors over the last 2 years, and so they've really expanded. So like for Delatoro McNeil, he's going to be on the Today Show for his 3rd time, and they've got him on that. So I can see too, over the last 2 years, their knowledge of our books, their knowledge of this business space has really been, and they're now assigning us the same 2 or 3 publicists who, like Ashley, I can't remember who you worked with.
Molly, I think. Molly?
Yeah, Molly's, I think Molly's still. But so I can see too, they have expanded somewhat because they've been working with us so closely and with so many of our authors. So
nice.
But so you can we don't have to decide right away. I mean, this book publishes in April next year, and so at the beginning of the year, I'll start. Well, no, probably in a few months, I'll start working with Smith on the package for next year. So you can let me know what you think, and I mean, you know, if you really want to ramp up, you know, you've got the Mark Fortiers, the Barbara Cave Henricks, who are 6-month campaigns, more like 40K, but they do like a big campaign, and they can also help with speaking events, which is they can, you know, they pitch to like Google, they can do Financial Times, they can, so they're like a big reach. If you really want to escalate, you know, I'd recommend one of them, but then of course it's a lot more expensive. I like my little curated list because it's like tiered, you know, so that I
Yes.
can try to meet everyone's needs and help provide, you know, support for everyone at what they can afford.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for that. Hi, Leslie.
Leslie, are you traveling? I've never seen you there before.
Sorry. I just moved my desk and my
Oh, it looks so nice. That's like we were saying, after 3 years, we've all seen each other's same background. I'm like, ooh.
That's funny. I love it. Oh.
So I thought, oh, I'm gonna move. Heather, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah. So am I up now or?
You're up now, whatever you.
Yeah, just let everybody know what you're up, what you do, what you help, how you help.
Have there been any changes in the past couple of years, or because it also occurs to me the first time we worked with Heather at her first author day was like just barely into the pandemic, so it's still a new scary world.
Yeah. So now you've been sending most of your bulk orders through where? Through Amazon?
No, I think I want to say it's called Bulk Books, but I'm not positive.
Are you doing that? Oh.
I think it's Bulk Books. My CMI management firm, they have one that they contract with, and it uses BookScan, and that's the one they use. They do that mostly for my speaking stuff. Other than that, yeah, I mean, Porchlight's on my site, but I want to say most of it's through them. I think it's Bulk Books. Yeah.
Okay. So do you, I mean, you know, since you know about, I mean, you know, like Mike said, it's only been 2 years since we did this last. So do you have any questions about ordering direct bulk? Or I know you emailed me a couple times, I think, about ebooks and.
Yep. Yeah, you helped on a couple different clients here and there, so super helpful. I think I'll now that I know you are, so believe me, I got you on speed email. So anytime I need kind of digital copies and that kind of thing, I'll be coming to you.
Okay, great.
Very helpful.
And then I just wanted to let you know, I noticed that your pre-orders your pre-order quantity, if you are going to pre-order, if you plan to pre-order copies, it's like January 2nd. So I'll probably reach out to you like, before Christmas break, you know, to see if you want to pre-order any copies or not.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I will pre-order some, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, those are copies that'll ship from the printer. So, and then you can also order ebooks if you want to pre-order ebooks at that time, or audiobook, you know, as well. So, so I'll be contacting you then about that. And then I think we had this the last time we had, you know, the author day, but I wanted to remind you that I don't know if does bulk books ship to do they do bulk orders to individual addresses?
That's one thing I don't know. I know you do that. So if the client needs that, I know I can come directly to you on that.
Okay.
I don't know if they do, because I don't think we've had to do that. And no clients ask, at least it hasn't come through me that way. So, but yeah, I'm aware of that. Yep. If it has to come direct and with individual addresses, you can take care of that.
Yeah, can do that. And then, probably the last thing I want to mention is just to remind you about custom editions. So, you know, if you have a client that wants to put their logo on the cover and do their own 1 to 2 page custom foreword, you know, we can either add it to the foreword, kind of like add it in addition to the foreword that's already going to be in the book, or we can replace the foreword, you know, with their custom foreword. So,
Nice.
yeah, and that's usually, I mean, we can custom print as low as 300, but you know, we really for those kind of orders, we kind of prefer like 500 copies on up. But you know, but we have done them for less than 500. So
I'll have to remember that for kind of part of the pitch. I'll need to tell, because it's mostly not me doing that. Occasionally it might be Hathaway. So Hathaway, it's good for you to hear that. And mostly CMI, the speaker management firm. I'll remind them that can be done.
Yeah,
did one-
it sounds
we
like,
did
I know in
one-
your talk at noon, it seems like you're doing a lot of talks, right? A lot of speaking and
Well, I'm trying, that's for sure. Trying to exceed goals. So yes, the goal is to cap out at 50 a year. So I think I've done like 32 or something like that. So I'm just trying to get to the 50 mark. Yeah.
have they all been virtual?
No,
Okay. so
not
you-
this year. Last year I did 38 and yeah, probably, 36 were virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're starting to kind of go back to in person then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good.
Is there any issue, Leslie, is there any issue with printing time? I think we did a big custom order recently.
We did. That one was took a little longer because they wanted like a custom cover. It wasn't,
That's
we
right.
we did not use the cover that we, originally designed for the book. They wanted their own cover. So that it did take longer, but yeah, custom orders, I mean, I would allow 2 to 3 months time.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
I was just wondering because the printing industries or the publishing industry has been having a hard time with printing times.
Yeah.
The supply chain has hit us pretty hard. I know the printing's a lot slower than it used to be. I'm just curious if you were able to do that custom edition.
Well, once we got it booked though, I mean, it was like,
that's great.
It was 6 weeks. I mean, and they had to do 2 separate runs of 1,000 each, but they got them printed like.
Oh, did they do digital?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah.
But we had to do the cover at a separate printer because the cover was like 7 color, so we had to print the cover at a separate printer, have the printer.
Wow.
All the covers to the main printer.
That's good to know. They can do digital custom. I like that too. Okay.
It tops out at 1,000, but we can do that. So yeah, well, the reason I asked is because printing has been kind of a nightmare. It's getting to be less of a nightmare, but it's just been taking like twice as long as it used to. And with hardcovers, 3 times as long as it used to. I mean, we're getting hardcover reprints we don't do hardcovers anymore. We will not do books in hardcover until this blows over because it just hamstrings us.
Yeah, I've got to figure out. I'm gonna have to continue to brainstorm around the whole Wall Street Journal thing. I mean, obviously with every agency, I'll talk through that and figure out how we do it, but trying to get that because I don't like to set myself up for not being able to do something I have a goal for right off the top. So I'm always like, okay, let me just rethink that goal now.
Yeah,
I'm not dropping it. I'm kind of hard-headed.
And what goal is that, Heather?
To get to Wall Street Journal list, but I didn't realize you have to have a hard copy or you can do the digital side or whatever. So, so yeah, that's where we're at now.
Okay. So that's your goal. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Well, that's
I'm like, we did over 11,000 in a little over a year. So we'll just have to try to find a way to come up with 6 or 7 at launch. Digital. I don't know. We have to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can go back to all the customers that bought.
Hey, go right now. This was it.
Press that button today. Order that book.
Oh yeah. They can do pre-orders of digital too, right, Katie? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's one thing we track when we're looking at pre-orders is Kindle as well as print.
Okay.
So, and you can pre-order on Barnes & Noble too. You can do the Nook if people still use the Nook. I'm not sure. I'm sure the Nook's still out there, but
yeah.
They may have discontinued it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, most people, most people buy Kindle.
Yeah, they're the
or they
$500
go through
gorilla.
iBooks, and with Apple. I mean, those are 2 of the most popular ways to get the digital versions. Yeah, and then of course, a lot of people use Audible for the audiobook. The audiobook version. So,
did you read your own audiobook? You did you?
Yes, I'll be doing that again.
Good for you. Glad Courtney let you. That's great.
Part of it, the first one really was required because it's based on the podcast and my voice is kind of definitive.
Yeah.
So they needed to do it. I just decided I'm going to do it again. Why not?
If you did it once successfully, you can do it. It's just a lot of authors can't hack it.
Yeah. I had a really good producer. I had a guy who was an actor, director type person. So he would tell me when to slow or pause or repeat or whatever. So that worked really well. I'm going to beg him to do it again.
Oh, that's great. I didn't realize they did that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Do you have any other questions or?
I don't think so. This has been helpful, kind of a good reminder, and I'll make sure to now some of the team hears and get some to the other team, and I think we'll be good.
Great, good. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. It was
Okay,
good.
thanks, Leslie.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, let me go back to the marketing plan. Oh, I could go back to the marketing plan. Hold on just one second. I lost the whole screen for a minute and I had to, that's why I pulled the marketing plan down. 'Cause it sounded like things went silent. Everybody froze. So I have to go find it back again. But there it is. All right. And screen share. There we go. Okay. So we talked a little bit about bulk sales, talked about publicity. You speak 50 times a year. That's crazy. So one of the bullet points here is sales via an online event created by Barrett Kohler. Now, I don't have any details on that online event yet because the digital team, we're kind of rethinking the whole way that we do digital. And actually that part of hiring Purnima was part of that rethinking. But what I'm talking about is an online event like the one you did with Zoe and her team last year. Or yeah, last year, the year before. I think it's last year.
Zoe?
Zoe Mackey, I think she used to run the digital program.
Oh, okay, maybe. Yeah, I'm thinking of gosh, I see her face. The person was a main front for that.
Was it Shopnom or was it
Charlotte?
Charlotte? Maybe?
Charlotte, I think that's right. Yep.
Charlotte.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you might end up. Yeah. So I have spoken to the digital team several times about this because I know the first one was very successful and they are, it's far down the line and they don't actually plan that far ahead yet. But I asked them right before this meeting if they were into it and they were very into it. So
good.
Something probably along the lines of the event you did with them before.
Okay.
What we call online training programs.
Mm-hmm.
So just, and ideally we would want that around pub date. They did ask me about the pub date. So just want you to know we're going to be doing that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they're very enthusiastic about it. Now I was curious, how big is your mailing list now?
It's, I don't know, 4,200 or something like that.
4,200. Okay. I just want to make sure like a lot of my numbers on here are still accurate. And so that's good. And I get all your newsletters. That's how I knew you'd already putting together your launch team. That's great thinking ahead. I'm gonna use you as a model.
Like I said, there's some big goals. So I mean, we got it. We just just have to do a little bit do things more progressive or aggressively, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. What do you offer your launch team? Do you a free book and anything else?
We're doing the sign book. What was it? Nikki, what else? But sign book. I know that they're going to get like way behind the scenes stuff. I'm going to be going to them as almost like little market advisors in a way. I'm going to do that. I didn't do that last time, but I'm going to do a little bit more of that this time. What else did we put, Nikki?
I think we said, I'm trying to, my internet is not liking me today. I think we just basically said, access to exclusive events, that kind of thing. Obviously the author day was a big thing. We said, this is a really kind of cool event where you get to hear all about the book firsthand, but let me see what else I did.
I think I see wanting to do at least 3 more things where I kind of say, hey, I call them together. Maybe it's just to be, I know Ashley will help me think about this too, but as we think about certain things we might be deciding on or something, then I will probably want to bring them in so it feels like they're really, a part of a family team, where we just sit around a table talking about it. I want to promote a little bit of that. So I'll do maybe 2 or 3 of those before it launches.
Great. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. And do you know what your podcast listenership is? I've always been curious about that.
Actually, Ashley, do you know
Yes.
what
It depends on the episode, but it can be like on average, it's around 300-ish downloads per episode.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. So I want to say, I thought Neil said we had a certain amount annually. They're looking at annual downloads. I think there was in the double digits of downloads. I just can't remember per year.
I can look it up right now while we're on the call.
And I want to say either you, Ashley, or Neil discovered, I don't know if it's still the same, but in some European countries we're like 8th in management and leadership on the podcast. I don't know where we are in the US. I'm not sure if we're in a top 100 for management and leadership, but I know we're like number 8 in Belgium or something like that, right? Different places over here.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. You don't realize that people are watching. I always say that people are always watching.
And that is a perfect segue to Catherine Legrand, who is our Associate Director for Rights.
Hello, Heather.
Hello there. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. We have worked together on the art of caring leadership. So we will be presenting your book at the Frankfurt Book Fair that will take place in October. And we'll tell our partners everything about your book and about your activities abroad. So you mentioned during the launch that you will be speaking in Brazil, most likely in person.
No, I already had done that in person. We had some holds we had some international holds that didn't quite, I'm noticing a lot of them are going with folks that are already like in Europe or already kind of closer. So they're not as much, at least on my end, they're not coming. We had Guam, we had Dubai, we had a lot of them, and then they just kind of like went away. So right now we don't, if I'm working with a global brand, like I did VMware, and then I'm speaking in their different countries, but they're obviously here in US, but they're all over the world, then then that might be something I might do. But right now I don't have anything international booked. I've got some holds already for next year, but they're not international as of right now.
Okay. Will your workshop be, the content of your workshop be translated in other languages? Do you know? If you had your self-assessment translated in Japanese?
Yeah, we did that. If it was, it's all based on the demand. You can see how pricey that would get if we try to translate in every language. So it'd be based upon demand, I think. And the workshop would be offered it would be like live until we think about if we want to offer something like an on-demand type of thing, then that would be then translated, but not to every language, depending on the platform and what the need is. It's all about supply and demand.
Okay.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, I'm asking because as I had mentioned to you, for the art of caring leadership, it's important to coordinate in order to make sure that the language is the same in the book and in the workshop, the content of your workshop. So what we can do is when we receive offers, let's say we receive an offer from a Japanese publisher, I send it over to you, I send you the notification, and then you can let me know at that time if you have the content of the workshop available in Japanese. So we could put you in touch with our Japanese agent or the Japanese publisher. They would like what we did for the art of caring leadership, basically.
Yeah, that's a very good point. One of the things I was thinking about around the workshop, because I already have the workshop and we have to just create the facility. If I want someone else to do it, like basically either buy a certification for it or get, buy the like a license to it, let's say, then they would have a facilitator guy. We could literally already have I have a 2-hour and 4-hour workshop. So we could have slides that are kind of evergreen where they can put their own branding and things on it if they like. That would be, we could then we could have that, and then we could sell like a license to the workshop. We could do something like that. I'm trying to think of all the different ways we can do it, because I am not delivering all of those. And of course I don't speak all those languages. So
right.
You mentioned Mexico as well when
you mentioned Mexico, and French Canadian,
Yeah, I'm speaking virtually to at least 1,000 leaders, HR leaders, September 3rd or something like that. That's a sponsor who lives in Mexico. And he just is a huge follower of mine. So he got them to have me be the keynote. There's a lot of other people that are going in person, but I decided to keep it virtual. They just couldn't quite pay enough.
And is the audience Mexican leaders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, HR and mostly HR leaders. Yeah.
So if you could send us any information you could share about that, that would be great.
Okay.
Also, you were mentioning right before Katrine came that you had some data analytics in terms of international audience for your podcast. It would be great to have a list, if that's available, of like what different countries you have listeners in, because we could mention that as a fun fact that would be of interest to these foreign publishers.
Okay. And Ashley, I think I want to say, it's because we pay the higher fee. So we are supposed to be able to get that. If you can't see it, I think Neil can help, because I remember he's the one who told me about the ranking or maybe it was you.
Yeah, I can definitely pull that information and see the demographics by country.
Awesome.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions, Heather?
No, nothing on that.
Ashley, regarding international?
I'm willing.
I
If for
mean,
some reason I would say, one thing I would say is that I'd be open to travel. So like, obviously if anybody is reaching out, let's say, and they're like, oh, could she come and present it or something? I'd be willing to do that to try to make the sale. So just know that I'm open to that.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
Thank you. Good to know. Thank you.
Other than that, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. That's pretty much it for rights. I mean, we will be constantly in contact, Heather, as soon as you know, we will after the Frankfurt Book Fair. I will also send you the list of publishers who have shown interest in your book. So you will be, we will be at least in touch at that time.
Awesome. And I'm going to send out, I'll make sure to send out, sure, sometime today or the end of the day, I'll send out the information on the Mexican client too that I'm working with. So
Great,
you can
great.
start looking.
Thanks.
Perfect. Great.
Can
There we go.
take
Sorry, I
over,
keep
Mike.
forgetting to unmute myself.
I know you keep coming out of this, of the plan.
Well, I keep coming out the plan, plus I keep muting myself because I type loud and I'm taking notes well. I've been called out several times for typing loud, but I wanted to circle back to Sarah Nelson because one of the things she's going to be doing for us is social media posting, which is something it's been a while since we've had someone in the marketing department doing social media for us. It was actually
Very quickly, I will.
Oh, sorry,
step
sorry.
up.
Didn't you read that? I'm sorry.
No
Thanks,
worries.
Catherine.
I will step up. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye. Bye.
Sorry. So I just wanted her, you know, we it's been years actually since we had a person in the marketing department who was doing social media. And so I just wanted her to talk a little bit about that, what the thoughts are about how that would work and how you could work with her. I think probably especially Ashley, particularly could work with her, but so Sarah, if you're willing.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll be managing a lot of BK's social posts. And so a big thing that I kind of wanted to stress that I've spoke about is just that obviously social sharing is kind of a big deal. So, you know, if you guys could share our posts about your book and then we'll share your stuff about your book, that's a big deal to kind of expand audiences. But then also whatever speaking engagements or webinars or you know, special things that you have planned to promote the book outside of what we're doing, if you could let me know, then I can make sure that we can promote that on our social media as well, because, you know, clearly the more bigger audience that you get, the better it is for everybody. And so I just want to be able to kind of share that kind of stuff. You know, with Ashley doing, or Ashley's, both of your Ashleys doing a lot of your social posts and social content. If you guys want to share any kind of assets, you know, graphics or anything like that, that you have, then we can share, you know, we can post that kind of stuff on our social media as well. Or if you have anything, say you have like a really cool post that comes out that you really want to get a lot of traction, if you just let me know about it, I can make sure that I go find it and make sure that we share it as well and kind of get that out to our people too.
I was gonna say, I try to remember to tag you guys, that way that you get the notification and it just makes it easier for everybody. So on anything relating to Author Day, I think I tagged you, or not you, but Barry Kohler.
Yeah.
So I think that just makes it the easiest way. And I think vice versa as well. So that we can just work within the apps and that communication. Of course, like I can send you an email, that's no problem, but I think it's a good reminder to just have it in the app because you see it and then it's easy to just reshare within the platform.
Yeah, I think that's great. I don't have admin access of our Instagram yet, so I haven't seen any of those things, but going forward, I think that works perfect. And then things about like webinars and those kinds of things, if you just email me about those ahead of time, that way we can plan posts around those as well. That would be awesome. And then just as a heads up, I'm East Coast. So if you email late and I don't get back to you right away, that's why. It's not that I'm ignoring you. It's that I'm 3 hours ahead of everyone else. So
That works
just so you know.
perfect because I'm on Eastern time too. So
Okay, cool.
we're in the same world.
Perfect.
He's in the Dominican Republic, so just go ahead and be jealous right this
Oh,
exact moment.
okay. I'm jealous. I'm just over here in boring North Carolina.
I used to be in boring Texas. So.
Oh, okay.
On the
Okay,
marketing plan, does it give, you gave us all the contacts in there? So at the end of the marketing plan, that gives us all of marketing team's contacts. Is that, so that way Ashley can get, any of the Ashleys, if they need whatever, can get a hold of Sarah or email Sarah.
Yeah, you're muted, Mike.
There you go again. Let me double check that. Let me double check that. Make sure Ashley's or Sarah's on that.
Okay.
Because I'm not. She should be on it, but I'll make sure. I'll make sure.
Okay, cool.
Back to. I think we're pretty much coming to the end of the marketing plan.
Oh, no.
Let's see. Yeah, so we have bulk sales consulting clients, sales the organizations you're affiliated with, so which obviously you can use to market the book, and then promotion on BK social media platforms. Like that's something that Sarah will be able to help with enormously. And then the rest of this is pretty much the same as it was last time.
Okay.
We're promoted to the trade by paying at Random House. We talk to them a lot. We pitch them a lot. So they'll be representing the book to the trade and to Amazon and to Barnes and Noble. They have sales reps that do that. So that's one thing we'll keep track of on the Google Doc, like last time, is how the orders are coming in. And then once we actually get sales in, we'll track how the sales are coming in. Digital distribution, I don't know, we're up to more than 80 now. We have enough digital distributors that we stopped counting every time because they just add more and more. But it's still mostly an Amazon game. I mean, Amazon's got a huge slice of the market, so all these other ones are relatively small change. But the book will just be distributed to all of them. The audiobook, you know about that. Corporate sales, you know how to get corporate sales. This isn't the greatest training for Sarah because you know all this stuff already. So textbook sales, we don't do we're doing less textbook sales than we used to do. Penguin Random House does have a distribution arm that does that, but I'm trying to work more closely with them, but I don't think it's a huge priority with them. So it's not the most active part of our sales program. I got to be honest.
Most of the textbook sales are happening in the digital world anyway, and so we do work with EBSCO and ProQuest and ProDivia and all those
yeah, Vital Source too. I need to sort things out.
Vital Source, yeah.
So most of that I get Vital Source exam copy requests all the time. So and then international sales, I think we've covered all of that. We talked about publicity. We talked about digital marketing again. I think it either Marin or Kylie or Charlotte. It's 3 people now. We'll probably be in touch with you about that, but not for a while.
Okay.
Closer to the when the book comes out. I mean, they're not going to wait till like a month before, but they've kind of got their hands full with a big project right now with Sonia Ray Taylor and Adrienne Marie Brown. So there's that. And then I just want to see if catalog and all that. And I'll check the Google Doc to make sure Sarah's on it. I assume she is, but I'll double check that.
If we can also work towards like a little bit better, like a plan on the award strategy too. I was hoping that the Art of Caring Leadership would have gotten one just, well, for the pure design of it alone. But I was hoping that would have done it. So if not, then we can still look at this one too.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I need to talk to Chris about that because that's another thing that we need to take another look at. Because there's a few awards. If there's any awards you know of that you want us to submit it for, let us know. Because we know there's some that are out there. There's Ben Franklin, there's the Independent Book Publishers, there's Axiom, Nautilus. Those are the ones I know off the top of my head. But there may be others that I'm not aware of that, if there's anything you want us to apply for, we can usually apply for it. Even if there's an admission fee, it's not that much. So that's kind of the end of my kind of quickie presentation on this one. I would like to schedule another meeting though before we leave because otherwise it's so, I'll just forget. It's so far in advance. Let me check your page proof date. Because usually we get back together around the page proof date. And that is, let's see. November 9th is when the page proofs come in. So maybe a week or two before that, depending
Okay.
on people's schedules. Let me
But,
check mine.
and also it'd be good to let me know what you decide about Smith um, in the next couple months, maybe before November and the next time we get together, because
Yeah.
they'll need time to build it into their schedule or
I'll
at
probably
any,
end up going
at any
with
time.
them. I just may end
Okay.
up augmenting with something else too.
Yeah,
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 were
yeah,
there
yeah.
like specific targets that you wanted them to hit, or specific venue outlets?
Well, I
you
mean,
wanted them to-
of course, we'd like to have the Del Toro. We'd have to have
Good Morning
the Today
America, yeah.
Show. Like they don't. So it's. I think that with them, it was like more elevated media. Like what is it called? Live media? Is that what you call it? News? Whatever. I did a couple regionals. They did a couple regionals with it. It was an ABC
Yeah.
regional, I think, affiliate and a other one. So I would think that would be it. And then they were trying to get me a Harvard Business Review. Maybe this one would do it, partly because I'm probably going to also. I'm looking into a study to go along. It might not come
Oh,
out at the
good,
exact
good,
same
good.
time, but next year having a listening study come out.
Well, and because the leadership book, there's leadership in the title, it becomes very specifically a business book.
Mhm.
Whereas active listening is a little broader, and so it could probably flow out. Because like Del Toro's book, just like Dr. Shirley Davis,
Mhm.
their book's more inspirational.
Yeah.
It's not put in that media, business media category
Yep.
as much, and so that's why he was able to elevate up to some of the bigger, broadcasting, because it's just a little broader.
Yes.
So that's like a strategy we look at to make sure that all of your messaging and that doesn't just confine it to the business space or organizational, right? I mean, it's organizational, but it also goes beyond that. So
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how we do it because I want to be careful
Yeah.
too a little bit. I was purposeful on so many fronts. I was like, I wanted
I
to say
know.
people at work because I needed to be a workplace book
Right.
because that's what I'm an expert in. I don't want to
Right.
try to tell people I'm like a
Yeah.
relationship expert where I try to tell them how to talk to their husbands
Right.
and their children. I can't go
Right.
there and not with
Right.
integrity.
Right. Exactly.
So-
And that's why Del Toro's book's a little broader that way. It's just more inspirational.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's more of a motivational speaker,
Yep.
right? So yeah. But so anyways, yeah, and we can talk more specifically, and they're so open. I'm sure you worked with Corinne before and Nicole, and it's the same team, so and
Yeah.
Janet. So yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, wait. I need to open my calendar because it's linked to my email. I turn it off during these meetings so it doesn't ding all the time. There we go. Okay, so I'm sure my November is pretty open at this point. Or my October too. I can be pretty confident to say that. But let's see, July, August.
Looks like the 31st looks decent. There's some openings there.
October 31st?
November 1st looks decent as well.
Oh yeah, either of those work for me. I got nothing on either day.
If you do October 31st, you have to be dressed up.
That's right. I've won 2 years in a row. I've won the costume party 2 years in a row. So
Do we do a costume party? That's
Well,
awesome.
we do.
we started them in person and did like 4 years. I'll find the pictures and share them with you, Sarah, because we had some great costume. But we've been trying to do it on Zoom too, but it's
Yeah,
not.
the last one was a
know.
little lazy, I have to say. The one
Yeah.
before that, I think I won because I had tentacle fingers. That was pretty much it. But before that, it was tough. There
We
were
have
a lot of
some-
good ones.
We had some very elaborate costumes.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
All right, back to.
So,
We digress.
Yeah, I know. The 31st or the 1st, either one works for me.
Let's do the 31st. Hey, wait,
Okay.
I might have to do what you're saying, Sarah, and just be dressed. The 31st.
And what time of day?
How long is that meeting?
Like maybe an hour. I mean, I usually put an hour, might not be an hour, but
Maybe
the
like
first time we
oh, that's 8:30 your time. That'd be too early. Maybe a 1 o'clock your time, 1 o'clock Pacific.
I can do it. To say 8:30 my time would be 8:30 my time.
Yeah, I was thinking
Does that
9:30
be
my time.
9:30. I could do it. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's one thing about working virtually. I'm working from home. I don't have to commute in.
Exactly.
8:30 is not. I mean, I'm usually working by 8:30 anyway. So.
Okay.
All
So
right,
let's do that. So then 8:30 your time on the 31st.
On the 31st. Okay, and I'll send an invitation. How many people should I send it to? I guess everybody that got this.
You can, if you want to, you can send it to me and then I'll just like loop it in everybody else.
Okay.
I
Great.
need, because who knows at that point what we're doing.
Yeah, I'll do it right after this.
Okay.
This call.
Perfect.
All right, great. Well, it was great talking to you again. I did lead my pitch with "She's not afraid of the hustle." That's what you said. I led my pitch to Penguin Random House with that, and then I said, "Look, because she's crossed 10,000, so which they know, they get it. They know that's an impressive for a business book. For any book, that's impressive. For a business book, is doubly impressive to me.
Oh, thank you. That's nice
Yeah,
to know.
you are. I often cite you as a model author, so
Well, I guess
you got to keep living up to that now.
yeah, we do. I say we do. I do because there's, it's just, it takes all of us. It really is a team thing. I tell you, my brain, my team knows I probably rarely sleep. My brain is always moving at rapid speed. So, and so they're just kind enough to do what they can to just like bring it all to life. And I appreciate it. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you.
And,
awesome. Thank you, everybody. I'm looking forward to the journey. So
have a good week.
Okay.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.